Welcome, race fans, to the Daytona International Speedway. First off, got to thank Ryan Daniels for coming up and helping me out tonight with this race, kind of on an impromptu basis. Ryan, nice to have you back for another race. We are here tonight for the NMNTS Spec Championship Series Daytona Duels. These guys have 50 laps to go out on this 2.5 mile speedway and run the best they can. Jason Alexander is locked into the pole position, and he is on the track, right?
Yes, he will have to be on the track if he isn't already, because the 5, as of what the race control just said, does at least have to take the green in order to maintain that pole position that he will have next Monday night.
Well, Ryan, let's go through the grid right quick as these guys are rolling off the grid. In row number 1, it is Jason Alexander and Zach Lindgren. Moving on through the field, John Kennedy qualified in 5th. That means he'll start 3rd here tonight. Zachary Kreiser will start 4th in the duel. PJ Popham will roll off in 5th place in duel number 1 with Sawyer Ott to his outside in 6th. Moving to row number 4, it's Matthew Welsenbach in 7th, Joe Burchett in 8th, and in row number 5, it's Mike Bruno and David Heiza for duel number 1.
Yes, and then in 11th spot, we have Jared Hogard, hit number 3. In 12th, we have Blake Fallone. 13th, Aiden Young. 14th, Ronald White. 15th, Kenny Youngs. 16th, Gordon Larson Jr. 17th, Blaine Fallone. 18th, Trevor Harmon. And 19th, Terry Mason.
We also have Justin Richter and Spence Thompson tagging on to the rear end of the field. Back up to the front, though, Jason Alexander is our pole sitter for the Daytona 250, and he is locked into that position as long as he does not junk his truck here tonight. So as long as he runs a clean race tonight, he is starting from the 1st position next Monday night on Max Speed TV. And they come into the line. Ryan, it's your call for the start.
Alrighty, the pace car is getting ready to pull off here, and I've got my hearing set on the 5 Alexander. They out. Already we have a change up front for the lead. Zach Lindgren got a good jump on that outside lane.
Yeah, Zach Lindgren is already trying to power ahead in that PSI TV WFO Motorsports Chevy Silverado. He will fall back to Zachary Kreiser in 4th position, as Zachary Kreiser couldn't get up to the 85 to keep him ahead of the 5 of Jason Alexander. You see Jason Alexander now pulling off and going to the back between his blinking and not wanting to lose that pole position. I think that's a great move out of Jason.
Oh, that was close. But yes, Jason Alexander, number 5, he's dropped to the back, maintain and starting spot. And along with him, there are a few other trucks already. Followed by 9 of Aiden Young. And up in the front, we have a change in the lead. John Kennedy is going to lead lap 1 in number 42. Yeah, John Kennedy started in 3rd position when Jason Alexander vacated the lead position on the bottom side. John Kennedy was the one to fill it. And the Maxed Out Motorsports driver is now leading PJ Popham into 2nd place. And here comes Mike Bruno into 3rd. Yeah, Mike Bruno, one of those drivers that I think in the go or go home, or Mike is trying to do all the things. He knows he's going to have to finish ahead of that. He'll be one of these front 2 go or go home trucks if he's going to have any shot at Monday night. So there are a few guys up here will be able to keep tabs on who they are. So Mike Bruno, an early favorite to watch as one of these go or go homers.
Yeah, these guys are moving around a lot, and early PJ Popham moved around that lap to get himself in front of Zach Lindgren. He is now your race leader. John Kennedy has fallen back with a couple of drivers leaving the bottom line. Jared Mogard, one of those. Jared Mogard went to the top side in front of Zachary Kreiser and behind Zach Lindgren. So he went into the Zach sandwich, and now he is currently running the 5th spot, and he just moved Zach Lindgren to the top side. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, down the back straightaway. They have got the ball back to Yeager teammates there, Zach Kreiser and Sawyer Ott. Maybe just right now, just trying to keep his truck safe too. I mean, it's a long race, it's 50 laps. It's not that long of a race per se, but these guys do want to keep the lead. They want to keep one piece. A long way to go still here tonight.
Yeah, and Cody, thanks for the advice on Ryan's volume. We fixed that, so he should be louder for the future. So far, it's a 5-truck breakaway. Oh, no, it was on my end. So far, it's a 5-truck breakaway, though, as PJ Popham is actually trying to make it a 6-truck breakaway. And you see the inside line of 4 trucks is pretty much walked away from the rest of the field. There's 2 on the outside trying to work their way up. That's Jared Mogard and Joe Perchette. So far, it's working out, Ryan.
Yeah, so far, those 2 trucks up on the top here, Joe Perchette and Jared Mogard. I don't know why I couldn't just say his last name. I'm sorry, Joe. But Mike Bruno there giving a good push to the back end of John Kennedy. And you're right there, Andrew. For some reason, these front 2 trucks on the outside able to keep pace with an enormous, basically a freight train of other trucks on the bottom. Everybody just kind of holding pace right now.
Yeah, this is something you might expect from the NASCAR Cup cars here at Daytona. This is kind of bizarre to see in the NASCAR trucks because they do draft so well in a pack, but you can see they're separated early, and there's even a couple of tracks just exiting turn 2 as these guys are almost to turn 3. I think those are a couple of teammates, possibly Sawyer Ott and Aiden Young way in the back.
Yeah, those 2 trucks hanging out the back would be the 29 of Matt Welsenbach and the 9 of Aiden Young. The 9 of Aiden Young is another one of those go-or-go homers, so it looks like the strategy by those 2 Jaeger teammates is to just keep those 2 safe and try to make it to the end of this race and hope for some cautions here later on.
Definitely, and that's not a bad strategy, but it can come back to bite them if this race goes green. But back up to the front, John Kennedy still leading that bottom line. Jared Mogard, his teammate, on the top side, and right now these guys are doing what WFO tried to do in the shootout, the Via Graphics Cup shootout, and just controlling the race. Granted, Mogard is only controlling 1 car behind him, but those 2 are just controlling this race for their team.
Yeah, they're certainly trying to that is either way. I do believe that the 3 or the 83, if not both, are go-or-go homers. The 42 of John Kennedy is as well. The 19 of Mike Bruno. So a lot of these guys who see up front right now are all battling to try to make the show. They know that obviously with the other go-or-go homers being up at the front here early, it is imperative that they stay in front of them and don't get themselves in a position where they could get caught up on a wreck. But that was a close move. The 3 almost came down on top of the 83 there as they entered turn 1. A good move by Joe Perchette to take the lead away from the 42 of John Kennedy. Yeah,
speaking of wrecks, Ryan, we almost just had one. Joe Perchette tried to get down to the bottom side. He made it work. He had his right front under the left rear of Jared Mogard, but Jared Mogard was trying to block the move. And you saw those 2 almost collide in turn 1. Now David Heiza tries to side draft the 83. Almost made contact in turn 4. These guys are getting really, really dicey really early.
They are getting dicey early, and it's funny that you mentioned the accident I was mentioning because we were talking about the same thing. But, yeah, as we continue to look up front, we do have the 3 of Jared Mogard is now your new leader, followed by the 83 of Joe Perchette. And on the outside is the 7-11 of David Heiza with the number 1 of PJ Popham pushing behind him. Oh, and they're in the wall, and there's the wreck.
There it is. That's the first wreck of the night. Sorry, that's the wrong camera. Let's try to get a better one. First incident of the night. They keep it green somehow.
Jesus. They're still wrecking. Wow.
They're somehow wrecking. Yeah, they're somehow just getting through this. That was bizarre to see, first of all, but I did want to mention after you had your little spiel there that I noticed the 1 was really chasing the back end of the 7-11, and that was going to bring out a caution. Looks like we have another incident, actually. Back up to the lead, it's Kenny Yance.
Yeah, looks like Kenny Yance and maybe the 99 of Ronald White might have just gotten together. A lot of damage to the 99 of Ronald White and even more damage to the 22 of Kenny Yance as well. That's going to put a damper on things for those 2 drivers.
Yeah, and we were just talking with Kenny Yance before the race. He's one of our teammates, and we were just trying to give him a pep talk. This is a new thing for him to come into league racing, especially the trucks at Daytona. We were trying to pep him up, and unfortunately, he's already involved in an incident. Let's go back and get a replay on this, Ryan. We're going to try and see what happens here, and then we'll see what happened with the 1 and the 7-11. Again, I mentioned it looked like the 1 of PJ Popham was really chasing the back end of David Heiza just to make bumps. And that's not something you want to do. Obviously, you can bump the truck ahead of you. That's fine, but don't chase them to do it because then you'll end up probably hooking their bumper, and I think that's exactly what happened. But we'll see that in a moment. Right there, you see the incident with Ronald White. He was trying to find a hole, and literally he really did just turn up on the left front of Kenny Yance, and Kenny Yance almost turned down into PJ Popham trying to get out of the way, and he just unfortunately almost got in the way. But yeah, he saw the 99.
We have another Richter live, by the way, as well. The 42 of John Kennedy just smashed the wall out of turn 2.
And so we'll go live to him and try and get a quick replay on that. Then we'll go all the way back to the incident with the 1 and the 7-Eleven, try and show everyone at home that incident. We'll just stay with the blimp cam because I think this is one of the best cameras to show everything that went on. We'll watch and see what happens here with the 42 of John Kennedy. And right there you see Terry Mason actually was chasing the back end of the 42 to try and make the push. He ended up just barely clipping the right rear of the 42 car and turned him up into the wall. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, Ryan. You cannot chase the back end of another truck just to make a push.
No, you can't, because what's going to happen is you're not focusing on the outer line that you should be, and you're just going to drive or guide that truck, I should say, straight into the wall. And the field is now extremely spread out. We have drivers in the main pack, basically in the middle of 1 and 2, and I'm going all the way back to the last car on the lead lap, and that is the 9 of Aiden Young. He was basically just coming out of turn 2, while the rest of the lead pack was in the middle of 3 and 4. So, and everywhere in between there, we do have trucks spread out now. A lot of them with damage after all that checking up. No cautions through all those incidents over the past few laps, but definitely jumbled up the field, and now we're going to start seeing some of the gamesmanship being played out here with the field so spread out.
And we're watching the replay one more time with the 1 and the 7-Eleven. You see David Heise actually ended up pushing into the fence out of turn 2, and the 1 of PJ Popham tried to go with him until he realized that he was going to push all the way into the wall. At that point, PJ had nowhere to go other than into the left side of the 7-Eleven. They kept it going straight somehow. But yeah, let's get just, I guess a good representation of how spread out these guys are. We're starting out with Joe Perchette. We're going to go to the back driver of this lead pack of 6 trucks rather. There's Blake Fallone. Moving back now, we're going to go all the way back to Zachary Kreiser, the next leader of a next little pod of trucks, I believe. And yeah, he's leading his teammate Sawyer around. You go back now to Trevor Harmon. He's another 7 or so seconds back with a 4-truck pack around him. And Matthew Welsenbach starting to catch up as well, it looks like. He's bringing Aiden Young. That's going to be a 6-car pack now. Further back, John Kennedy turns 1 and 2. He's falling victim to PJ Popham and Kenny Yance. Even further back is Ronald White, currently entering turn 1. Then you have David Heise, currently a lap down. Spence Thompson, I believe, I'm not sure what happened to Spence Thompson, actually, but he is 4 laps down, but he will use his championship provisional, and Jason Alexander, I think, has called it a night. He is in the pit lane. Back up to the leaders as they pass us again. That just shows you how spread out this field is, and now you have Jared Mogard, Zach Lindgren making a run on the top side.
Yeah, these guys working really hard on the outside right now as well. The 85 of Zach Lindgren giving a good push to the back of the number 3. Right there, and they're continuing to try to make that outside line work, but a lot of movement there by the 85 of Zach Lindgren. That could have been a catastrophe if he wasn't careful, but thankfully an experienced driver behind the wheel, that 85, made that work.
Yeah, these guys have made some really risky moves already. We're not even 15 laps into the show, Ryan, and we've seen, I think, 3 wrecks pretty much that just weren't a caution. And these guys are still somehow going, but it's looking pretty good for everyone still in these lead couple of groups because they're pretty much home free at this point if we go green.
Yeah, the only thing these guys are going to have to worry about is that we are going to have at least 1 pit stop in this race. You cannot go 50 laps on a tank of fuel in these trucks here at Daytona. So we're probably looking at a fuel window of maybe 42 to 45 laps, maybe even a little bit less, but we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we're still early away from that mark. But these are things that will definitely play into effect here as we get further and further into this run.
Yeah, and currently you see the 6-car group here still working together, but I want to call attention to a couple of Jaeger Racing drivers behind these guys starting to catch up. Zachary Kreiser, Sawyer Ott working their way back into this lead pack.
Yeah, they are. Those 2 Jaeger Racing teammates there of Zach Kreiser and Sawyer Ott, you're right, have been tag teaming it these past number of laps, really pushing each other hard, trying to catch back up to this front group. And now that front group that was just those 6 cars now become a group of 8. These 2 are not go-or-go homers, or not obviously, of course, but the 39 and 49 are not go-or-go homers. They are simply racing to try to improve their position for the starting grid of the Daytona 250 here in a week's time, and not too far behind them, their two other teammates, Matt Welsenbach and Aiden Young, have now found themselves at the start of the next group, but they are a full 12 seconds back off the main pack.
Yeah, and as the lead, few trucks work by Spence Thompson on the top side. Again, Spence Thompson can run in the back all race. Heck, he can park it right now if he so chooses. He has a championship provisional to get into the race. And tell us a little bit about that championship provisional, Ryan, with him and Tyler Justice.
Yeah, so basically how it works is the 89 of Spence Thompson, for example, unfortunately, due to work-related issues, because he could not be here last night to qualify because he was working, the 89 of Spence Thompson, his charter for this particular race was disallowed. However, as the first and past champion of the Monday Night Thunder series, Spence does not have to worry about qualifying in this race. He doesn't have to worry about passing anybody or being ahead of anybody in particular, because the 89 can fall back on his champion's provisional that he earned by becoming a past champion. So Spence, really right now, he's just hanging on to the end of this pack, really looking at the people in front of him, trying to think, okay, in what way can he maybe assist a teammate or an associated car, something like that, because up in this front pack, we have the 85 of Zach Lindgren still, and we have the 75 of Terry Mason, two drivers who you and I both know, Andrew, Spence does like to work with. So it'll be interesting to see what Spence's moves are here later on in the end of the race.
Yeah, definitely, and Tyler Justice could have had the same option, but Tyler Justice did show up to qualifying last night and put a lap down in his number 7 Spec machine, so he's already guaranteed a spot into the show based on being last season's champion and qualifying last night, and he has a charter bot for that truck, so he's totally fine. And actually, here come the leaders to lap John Kennedy now.
Yeah, it's definitely been a big swing in fortune for John Kennedy after being up at the front, leading a couple laps early on in this race. Now finds himself a lap down with really not a whole lot of help anywhere around him unless he can get hooked onto the back of this draft. But the 42 looks rather slow, and I just think by himself just now, just watching the way the pack is passing, he's not going to be able to hang on. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here throughout the rest of the race for that number 42, but he's going to need a caution and some other things to go his way if he wants to have a shot at racing next Monday night.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, as these guys are making moves in the front, Terry Mason goes to the bottom side to get in front of Joe Burchett and out of the way of Jared Mogard. That's going to hurt the outside line of Jared Mogard and Zach Linder, but let's see if they can actually power back up there and get Jared Mogard into the lead. But I wanted to call attention to a certain driver running a certain blue and yellow paint scheme a little ways behind this top 5. Blake Fallone right now out of Tampa Bay, Florida, is kind of just riding around, Ryan. He's not really pushing. Every once in a while, obviously, because he still has the draft, he can catch up to these guys, and then he backs off a little bit. He backs off the 85 of Zach Lindgren and the 19 of Mike Bruno. What do you think he's trying to do here?
Realistically, for Blake at this point, he's right where he wants to be, probably. He's going to be looking to just try to get a good run out of this race. A lot of these guys are going to use this duel as a point of reference for what to expect next week. A lot of the guys, like myself, for example, are watching this race to see how these trucks are handling. I am pulling the proverbial Michael Waltrip, and I will be on the track in the second duel, so it'll be interesting, or it's interesting to me to be up here right now and being able to watch and see what these guys are doing even before I head out there. And for Blake, really, he's just riding right now. He's doing exactly what he wants to do. He's running at the back of this pack. He's in a great position. When they pit, he's probably going to pit, and he's just going to try to get up there and try to win this race at the end.
Yeah, it really does look to me like he's just trying to mind the gap to the guys ahead of him. Obviously, he's going to have a couple of Jaeger Racing drivers right up his back bumper here pretty soon, but right now he's kind of just minding the gap, it looks like to me. Obviously with Zach Lindgren, he's actually having a connection issue. He's going to fall back a little bit, but I think Blake is just trying to mind the gap and stay back of these guys in case there is a wreck. And actually, Mike Bruno now going to the top side. Here comes Joe Burchett with him.
Yeah, on the outside, Joe Burchett, they're going to move up, going to try to help the the 19 going to move up and try to help the 83 of Joe Burchett try to get them both back to the front. Obviously, once again, the 83, the 3, and the 19 are go-or-go-homers, so all these positions of them moving around are all of them just trying to better their chance, making sure that they are going to be able to race next week. And there are a few drivers further back in this pack right now, or further back in the field, that are really going to need a caution or something to go their way soon. Otherwise, they're going to be really in trouble when it comes to having a chance at winning this race or even making it into next week's race if cautions don't fall their way or if the race strategy doesn't fall their way shortly.
Yeah, and it's watch from the nose camera on the 83 of Joe Pritchett right now, sponsored by Swamp Dust Seasoning. I want to mention, we've been talking about go-or-go-homers all night, Ryan, and I'm looking at the lineup that I made this morning, actually, and I believe John Kennedy is one of those guys who has to race his way in. He has to beat the other non-charter drivers into the race. PJ Popham, I believe, has a charter. Sawyer has one. I think Joe Pritchett may be without a charter. I can actually bring up another list to aid this, but you know, at first these guys who need to race their way in were doing pretty good at just that. They were up front and doing what they had to do, and then we saw a couple of issues. Is there any way for those guys who did fall back to make it back up?
Well, there is, and one of the main ways these guys can do it, obviously, is the pit strategy that we talked about. There is going to be the need for one pit stop. Now, if I'm looking strategically through the field and I'm somebody like maybe Justin Richter, who's currently in his number 97 truck, he's running back in the 20th position. He does have to race his way in. He's back there in that second group that hasn't really been able to make up a whole lot of ground on the front group, about 15 to 16 seconds back right now. Justin is going to need to come to the pits and maybe do something different. He's not going to be able necessarily probably to take a full load of fuel. He might just have to take exactly what he thinks he's going to need to make it to the end of this race and not take tires and just take that splash of fuel and try to give himself as much track position on these leaders as he can, because the bigger that gap gets, the further away and the more difficult it's going to become for him to even have a remote chance at racing next week if he cannot get to the front of this field. And without a caution at this point, that is going to be highly unlikely for that second group so far.
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. And we were watching the second group, as you mentioned. These guys have to start working their way up, try and work some pit strategy to get up there. But you can see right now these guys pretty much just riding around. They're in a single file line doing what they have to do. Obviously, if you're racing for position, you're going to slow each other down as a group. And thankfully, these guys are not racing for position. They've tagged on to the back of these Jaeger racing machines Matt Welsenbach and Aiden Young, and they're just running in a line now. David Heisa actually going to get in the way of these guys, try and catch their draft as they go by. You see this whole second group go to the top line to work their way around. Blaine Fallone also in this group. We haven't talked about him at all yet. Trevor Harmon in this group. Some guys who are just pretty much sleepers in the league right now running in this second pack. And you're totally right. They have to pull something to try and get up there. They're going to have to try something probably with pit strategy, really. I don't know if we're going to have a caution now.
Yeah, with how spread out the field is, a caution is going to be very unlikely. And if you, I do have the full list now of all the go-or-go-homers. So if you were the 42, the 19, the 3, the 9, the 99, the 27, 97, or 12, you are not going to be able to advance in this race unless you can get up to the front. And right now, with that being the case, we look, you're going to need to be maybe the first 2 or 3 go-or-go-homers will probably advance into the race. So if that is the case right now, that would mean that the 3 of Jared Mogard and the 19 of Mike T. Bruno, along with the 83 of Joe Pritchett, are the first 3 that are in the best opportunity and right up at the front of this main pack still. So right now, those are the 3 guys to watch as far as trying to make it into the race, or make it into the big show next week.
Yeah, and back up to the front, the entire composition of this front pack has completely changed. You can see it here. Zach Lindgren is now leading the top line. Blake Fallone is actually the race leader, with Terry Mason pushing him. Jared Mogard has slipped in behind Terry. You see Spence Thompson helping his WFO teammate on the top side, even though he's a few laps down. He had a computer issue at the start of the show, and Mike Bruno and, Joe Pritchett have fallen back a little bit, but they're still within the draft.
Yeah, they are. Those 3, all those drivers that are still in the draft, they're obviously trying to keep up, do everything they can from this point forward to just, really, they just want to run where they are. when you look at right now, for example, the 3, the 19, and the 83, all running within right next to each other within those 3 spots. Those are the 3 transfer spots, really, to try to make the race. So those 3 are honestly right where they want to be. They're up at the front. They're hanging with this group that is still being led by Blake Fallone, and you know, we talked about Blake being at the back of this pack, just kind of waiting it out. Well, now this front pack is so small that Blake has decided, hey, I'm just going to go up front and try to lead some laps. So it'll be interesting to see what all these guys do here, though, as we get closer and closer to the fuel window. We are at lap 30, so we're probably looking at within the next 10 to 12 laps, these guys are going to have to start hitting pit road.
Yeah, and I do want to mention real quick, because we've been talking about the Go Homer spots all night long. There are 12 drivers locked into the Daytona 250 from this race, and that's actually really good news for the Go Homers in this race. Whereas in Duel Number 2, which will be coming up right after this, there are 15 drivers locked in, which means there's only 1 transfer position to make up the 32 truck field, as 16 from each duel will advance. That makes 32. So, since there are 12 locked in, actually, no, there should be 13. You're right. Because I totally forgot. Jason Alexander is technically locked in as long as he doesn't wreck the truck. He's in the pits. He hasn't wrecked the truck. So he will move on. He will, of course, be in the show. Now, everyone else, they have 3 spots to battle for. And you've been talking about it all night. Just want to actually, talk about every driver who is needing to race their way in so far. John Kennedy, will go to him first since he started the highest out of these guys. John Kennedy currently in the 16th position. He actually would not make the show right now because you've been talking about the 19, the 83, and the 3 being in the front group, but John Kennedy currently running in 16th, 2 laps down. He's going to need at least 1 or 2 cautions to be able to get in any position where he can make the show still, but he's not out of it just yet, Ryan. And moving on, obviously, we've been talking about the 83, the 19, and the 3. We'll move over them for now. The 9, Aiden Young, currently running in 10th. He's honestly within striking distance as long as they play some pit strategy to try and work their way towards the front. Next up would be the 99 of Ronald White. He's kind of in the same situation as John Kennedy. He's actually 2 laps down as well, I believe. And right now in the U.S. Army machine, just riding around, trying to do the same thing as John Kennedy. We also have the 27, Trevor Harmon, who's actually in the same group as Aiden Young. He is currently running in the 12th position in the flip-switch Chevy Silverado. And I think there's just 2 more right behind Trevor. Actually would be the 97 of Justin Richter. He's trying to race his way in as well. And the final driver who did not show up tonight would have been Billy Hargrove.
Yeah, those, as you just mentioned, are all of the Go Homers. And also, like you said, really from this race, it's going to be 3 that advance. And right now, as we mentioned, up at the front, that is pretty securely the 19, the 83, and the 3 of Jared Mogard, who is now your leader. So it'll be interesting to see what strategy continues to be played. We are now coming to lap 33 of 50, so these guys are looking at about 17 to 18 laps to go here. Now, if I'm you, Andrew, or I'm going to ask you, Andrew, to bring out your driver's standpoint. If you're in this race and you're having to qualify to make it in, what is your pit strategy right now if you're somebody like Trevor Harmon stuck in the second group and you're this far back from the main pack?
Well, first things first, we're going to stay out as long as possible. I'll actually switch back to the second group now. We went to the leaders for a moment, but going back to the second group, like Trevor Harmon, like you mentioned, basically if I'm in the 27, I'm going to stay out as long as I possibly can, as long as I have at least a couple of teammates with me in this second group, and I'd actually try and keep this entire second group together. Because they have been running, decently well since they are one line. But you want to wait as long as you can in case a caution comes out. Once you do come in, you just come in for fuel and you get the bare necessities. I don't exactly want to quote the Jungle Book at the moment, but you literally come in and you get the bare necessities. And you go right back out and you have to hit your marks the entire way around. You have to brake as late as possible into the pit lane, and you have to be smooth exiting. You cannot miss your pit box. You cannot be too far to the left, too far to the right. You can't misclick on something and actually get tires. You have to make everything perfect, and even then, it's a long shot right now.
Absolutely, and I think that's the best way you could have described it. At this point, if you're in that second pack, it is a long shot for you to make this race right now. and you have to be aware of that, and you have to be thinking in your mind, what can I do different that the lead pack can't? And to be honest, if I were in the second pack right now, if I'm looking at the fact that right now it is lap 35, I might even come to the pits now. Try to short pit, come in, just get yourself some fuel. You know you have to have everybody else come in. If you can convince some people to come with you right now, you might have a shot if you just take the amount of fuel to make it to the end of this race, that you might just be able to get up there with those leaders if they take tires or anything like that when they stop. But it'll be interesting to see what these guys do and when they do it. But we are definitely closing in on that point where these guys have got to be thinking, okay, what am I going to do that these leaders aren't going to do, and how can I try to make my way into this show? Because right now, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and I disagree a little bit. I definitely would not short pit in this situation. If you're that far back, you have to wait and hope that you get a caution. Wait until the very last second. I mean, they're in turns 1 and 2 right now. The leaders are in turns 3 and 4. So you have to be very, very careful about what you do. You have to make sure you're out there as long as possible. You might even want to start really, cutting back on the throttle you're using, because you mentioned it's about a 42 to 45 lap fuel window. If you can extend that a little bit, you're going to have more chances to get a caution. So it's just, it stands to reason that you would want to try and save any little drop you can, even if it's only a straightaway's worth, so that you can try and get that caution to come out. And the other thing you have to think about is, if I'm in this race and I'm further back, I want to wait because I think the leaders up front will make a mistake getting into the pits and cause a caution that way. So I disagree with short pitting. I think they have to wait as long as they can.
In either way, either perspective is accurate. You never know what someone's going to think. And you're right, Andrew. To your point, obviously coming in right now could be detrimental to you, as well as it could help. It really depends on what happens here. But I do agree. At this point, I would say that perhaps short pitting, maybe to go back on my original statement, perhaps short pitting right now wouldn't be the best option, but you're still asking for a lot to have a front group of only 8 cars really right now to make that kind of a big mistake. So it is going to be a lot to ask for if you're somebody like Aiden Young or Trevor Harmon, Justin Richter, anybody like that who's just trying their best to make it into this race.
The thing you have to consider, though, Ryan, is any miscommunication. Actually, you see Jared Mogard dip onto the apron for a second. A big bobble out of the 3 truck. We were watching on board from the 19. We still are. But any little miscommunication when the leaders pit could be the difference. If one driver lets off a little sooner than another behind them, that could end up in a wreck. And I think you have to try and take the chance. You have to try and throttle back a little bit with the hopes. And actually, another thing they could do is swap out who's leading that second group so that they can equally save gas a little bit. It's not going to be much, maybe a lap at most, but that lap could be the difference.
Yeah, and I think right now it's like you say, they could switch the group back there, but realistically as well. Oh, for a minute I thought I heard the mic key up like there was going to be a caution. Sorry about that. But no, honestly, if I'm in the second group right now, if I'm looking at the way that they're lined up, the one thing I will say that you probably won't see is the 2 front cars in that group switch, because the 29 of Matt Welzenbach is a teammate, obviously, to the 9 of Aiden Young. 29 is locked into this field. The 9 is not. So by having the 9 behind him being able to save that fuel, that might propel Aiden Young that extra lap that he needs, like you mentioned, to try to make it to the end. So it will be very interesting here as we're now coming to lap 40. So this fuel window is here. If these guys are going to stop, it's going to be within the next couple of laps. So I'm actually riding in the front group right now, along with the, I am on board with the 83 of Joe Perchette, just waiting to see what these front cars do.
Yeah, I'm actually on board with the 39. We'll go back to the TV camera, but that's a good point, is you can save more fuel for the 9 if you are the 29 of Welzenbach. You can stay ahead of your teammate and try and save him more gas. I think guys are pitting here.
And we have a big bobble by the 83. Locked it up coming in. Joe Perchette is on pit road. The 19 of Mike Bruno on pit road. And these are 2 of the go-or-go-homers pitting with each other, but they were the only 2 of the front group to pit this early, so they may have a separation issue.
Yeah, and you saw the missed pit stall from both of these guys. They both missed the pit stall at first, and that's exactly what I was saying you can't do. Now, you see they're spinning their tires out of the pits. Another thing you don't want to do, you want to make sure you have maximum grip. That could be part of the difference. They could now be separated, go slower, and start to fall back to that second group depending on how they run their race from here. Back up to the front, though, Jared Mogard currently, I think, might come in this time with Zach Lindgren. No, they're not going to come in. It looked like the 85 and the 11 were going to nose into the pits. Looks like they're going to keep running and try and wait on a caution themselves.
Yeah, the only two to pit that time out of the front group are the 39 and 49. The Jaeger teammates of Sawyer Ott and Zachary Kreiser have hit pit road. Behind them, I'm now watching the second pack, waiting to see if anybody from that group peels off. It does not look like anybody is going to this time by. So the second group still remains together, and up back at the front, now I'm riding back on board with Jared Mogard as the majority of the front group has now pit. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the rest of them are probably going to be playing to come this time by.
And what I just saw that's really detrimental to the 19 and the 83 is they were just side by side for most of that lap, getting up to speed. Now you'll see the WFO crew come into the pits. That's going to be Zach Lindgren, Blake Fallone, and Terry Mason. I think Jared Mogard got it woed down in time as well. He'll come into pit with these guys, and this is important for these four to be in a group pitting. If they can nail every aspect of this pit stop, they will be the leaders. They're easily going to be the favorites to win this race from here, I think, unless we get a caution.
Yeah, now I'm watching that second group. The 9 car of Aiden Young is pulling in. The 29 is coming in, as well as behind them, the 00 of Gordon Larson. All three of them do get slowed down to pit road speed, and doesn't appear that any of them did speed that time by. It'll be in, this could be the move right here for that second group. These are the guys we were watching at the front of it. This is that perfect stop they need to have.
And Zach Lindgren was slow out of the pits. That's going to hurt the 85. Luckily, he's locked into the show. Jared Mogard having trouble getting up to speed. He's on the apron, or on the track almost, right on the WL lines, trying to get up to speed, but save as much speed as he can. The 11 and the 75 were the best getting out of the pits. Now Trevor Harmon is your leader with Blake Fallone and Justin Richter. I think we'll see these guys pit this time or next time around.
Yeah, they have to. Oh, and that was close. The 75 wasn't quite up to speed. The 3 of Jared Mogard almost got into him, and oh gosh, that was a clincher. The 19 almost just ran him all over. That was intense for a moment.
Yeah, I heard you saying, oh gosh, and I just switched back to random truck hoping I was right. I was right. We caught the tail end of that. We can try and go back and look at it after the show, but this is intense because the 83 and 19 actually, they got up to speed just fine. I didn't think they were going to get up to speed as well as the 11, 75, and 85, but I think with their issues, it just allowed the 19 and 83 to be there. So Mike Bruno, Joe Pritchett, I was completely wrong about them. They're still well within this, and the 39 49 as well.
Yeah, that main group now. Oh, and we have a crash down the back straightaway. That's the field. That's everybody. Everybody just crashed.
Yeah, the whole.
I'm not kidding. Everyone
the whole group of favorites that was in the back just wrecked, and who that's big for? Not the WFO guys. The 3 drivers that were in that WFO group of Zach Lindgren, Terry Mason, and Blake Fallone, they were all locked in. Who this is really detrimental for is the 19, the 3, and the 83. We'll go back and see exactly what kind of damage they got. You see Terry Mason going to pull it off into the pits. He's got a ton of damage. But let's go back and see exactly what happens here, Ryan. We just switched up to the 27 and the 21. They're now going to be your leaders. They did exactly what I said you have to do. You have to wait on this caution. It's going to work out for them. But up a little further back, you saw Jared Mogard went high. Mike Bruno tried to shoot the gap. He got into Blake Fallone, sparking this entire wreck. And that's going to really hurt the 3, the 83 as well, and the 19, just like I was mentioning.
Yeah, and remembering one thing very important here is that the 3, 83, and the 19 are all go-or-go-homers, and they have a ton of damage, especially the 19 of Mike Bruno. And who that just saved in this race is the guy who's now just catching the field, Aiden Young back here, as well as a few others. Another person that's really going to save is Justin Richter. No damage to that 97 car, and he's going to pit out of the 3rd spot. So it's a big shuffle up here in front now, but he is going to have to pit. So the 97 is basically going to have a 1-lap dash to make this happen.
Well, that's also really going to save Trevor Harmon and Blaine Fallone. Granted, Blaine Fallone is not trying to make the show based on his effort here tonight, but he does still want to better his position. But Trevor Harmon just really got saved by that caution. He'll be back with the group and have a chance to race for it now.
He will, but again, it will be a 1-lap dash. It'll be interesting to see what happens here because we do have a number of cars that are going to... if they don't pit, are going to be very slow, to say the least. That would consist of the crooked driving number 3 of Jared Mogard. If you look at that machine, it is all wadded up, as well as, let me see. I had it here. Where'd he go?
Well, Joe Pritchett's going to have some damage. You've also got Ronald White with a lot of damage. PJ Popham even. Now, I want to go and bring up something you mentioned about the 3 car. I don't think he's actually driving sideways. I'm on the onboard right now of Joe Pritchett behind him. I think it's still straight as far as the axles, but nothing else on that truck is straight, aside from maybe the cockpit.
Yeah, that it really, that is about it. And it's like you said, I do think it might just be the body that makes it look like it's dog tracking like that. But that machine has seen its better days, and at this point, it's going to be close here. This 1-lap dash is going to be crazy.
Yeah, it really is. We're going to go through the entire field here, starting with Blake Fallone, your leader. You can see the damage done to his truck with that move from Mike Bruno, just trying to go 3 wide underneath Jared Mogard, sparking that wreck. You can see a lot of damage to the 11 truck. Hopefully he can actually get up to speed and not completely just, I guess, sandbag in front of this bottom line. Hopefully he still has it in that number 11. Zachary Kreiser has no damage. Sawyer, I don't think he has any damage. Well, actually, he has a little bit of right front damage. So we'll see how he does. Jared Mogard, we just mentioned, has a ton of damage. Joe Pritchett as well. Aiden Young, totally clean truck, as well as Matthew Welsenbach behind him. Ronald White, who is actually going to be put to the back of the line since he has a lap down, has some damage. Gordon Larson Jr., I think, is totally clean. Blaine Fallone has some left rear damage. Trevor Harmon is clean. Justin Richter is clean. Mike Bruno, he's still rolling, but he's got a lot of damage as well.
Yeah, the 19 of Mike Bruno was heavily involved in that wreck. He's gonna just have to come to the pits, see what he can get done to that 19, and just see what he can salvage. Right now, as far as the race goes, Blake Fallone will be your leader when we take the green again. You did mention it, and it would appear that we do have a few different teammates up at the front. We do have the 39 and 49 who have been working together all race. They are in second and third, as you mentioned, and then behind them is where we get into the train of guys that are going to be racing each other extremely hard on this 1 lap to make this race. The 3 of Jared Mogard, the 83 of Joe Pritchett, the 9 of Aiden Young, the 27 of Trevor Harmon, not too far behind them, and the 97 of Justin Richter, who just got 4 tires and fuel, as well as the 27 did. But those two are going to have to work together and get to the front of this group fairly quickly. I would say right now an advantage could be said for the 9 if he can get past those other 2 cars in front of him. He has help around him. He's had the 29 working with him all night long, and he's got his other 2 teammates up in front of him. But it is going to be a battle for this transfer spot between the 3, 83, the 9, and those other 2 drivers that remain here with what it will appear to be actually a 2-lap dash. I thought it was only going to be 1, so it'll be interesting to see if these guys will even make a lap. But they're going to try, and we're going to call whatever happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these guys can do in the front. Obviously, again, 2 laps now. We were expecting 1, but 2 laps, and there's a lot of wreck trucks. We'll try and get an overview of all the wreck trucks in this field real quick. You can see a lot of damage among this field right now. We'll see what happens. I have my eyes on the 3 and the 11 as far as guys that could really impede the progress of this entire field. Obviously, Kenny Yantz as well further back in the 22. He's got a lot of damage. This is just going to be one heck of a finish. I don't know what's going to happen. PJ Popham, Mike Bruno in the back, they've got a lot of damage. I'm not sure they'll be able to hang on to the group. But if there's a wreck ahead of them, they might be in a prime position to get through. But back up to the front. Again, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I think the 83 will actually be okay. It doesn't look like he had too much damage. Looked like he got through relatively okay. But the 11, I know, got spun around pretty decently. And the 3 as well, especially.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting to watch all the rest of the way. And I'm going to let you call the restart because, put it this way, it's a good thing I'm not in the car right now because I am all up of sorts. I am on the edge of my seat, nervous for all of these guys.
And as the field exits turn 4 for the final time tonight under caution, will get this race restarted. The one caution of the event, Blake Fallone on the loud pedal. He's getting the race restarted, and looks like that 11 is actually up to par, but he's going to have some aero issues getting up to speed. We'll see how he does. Zachary Kreiser on the top side, no help from his teammate Sawyer Ott. Good thing he's locked in. Here comes Aiden Young on the top side now, trying to get his voice heard. He's the second Gorgo homer in the field, right behind Jared Mogard, who's slow. He's trying to get his way around.
Yeah, Aiden Young pushing on the back of that.
Oh, and a huge wreck!
The transfer spot. We have a crash behind them. Looks like the 29 might have gotten turned. I don't know what happened, but
it's a huge wreck.
I think the 49 just won this race.
We'll go back up to the front and see. We don't have the official call yet. We'll have to wait until they come back around to the line and iRacing tells them what to do. Looks like the 11 staying ahead of the 49. I think Blake Fallone was ahead of the previous scoring loop. I think he'll stay ahead of Sawyer Ott. So let's go back and see what happens here with the 29. As you mentioned, it was Matthew Welsenbach who got turned around there, and he's got a ton of damage. He's already back to the pits. But let's see what happens here for the driver of the number 29 out of Southern California.
It looked like one of those circumstances of just too many trucks racing for a little piece of real estate, and I think maybe some net code would have had something to do with it. 29 just looked like he got hooked by the 00, but I don't think they ever actually made contact until the 29 was already sideways.
Yeah, Matthew Welsenbach went to the top, or outside a little bit. He tried to make it free wide, and you can see the detrimental effects to the whole field because of it. You know, he was just trying to get a better position. You can't blame him for that, but unfortunately it did wad up a few trucks that were still going at the end, and it did, of course, impede the finish. I think that's the most disappointing part of it out of everything. But Blake Fallone will be your Duel number 1 winner. You can see him in the lead here, pacing to the start-finish line. Sawyer Ott in third, Zachary Kreiser in third. Jared Mogard, with that beat-up truck, is somehow going to hang on to the 4th position. He will advance to the Daytona 250, as will Aiden Young and Joe Purchett. However, this means heartbreak for guys like Mark Richter, or Justin Richter rather, Trevor Harmon, Ronald White. Let's see, who else do we have? John Kennedy. And I think that actually might be it, but just heartbreak for those guys as they will not make the field.
Yeah, utter heartbreak. I mean, I don't know if Joe Purchett made this race or not. It will be interesting to see how many vehicles come out of here. We do know that the top 2 go-or-go homers in this race that did just advance, as you mentioned, Jared Mogard and Aiden Young in the number 9 will be the 2 that advance. And then our top 3 finishers of Zach Kreiser, Sawyer Ott, and Blake Fallone taking the win. But behind all that is where there's question marks everywhere. I don't know how... I don't know if the 83 of Joe Purchett is going to have advanced. That will be up to the race tower, and it could also depend on anything that happens in the second race, which, by the way, I'm going to have to skedaddle out of here fairly quickly after these interviews because I got to get into my 52 truck.
Well, Ryan, I see no reason that the 83 wouldn't be in. There's 3 slots still open. He was the 3rd of the go-or-go homers. If he's not in, something's very, very wrong. But I don't see Jared Mogard in TeamSpeak, and who was the other go homer that's going to... Joe Purchett, that's right. I don't see him in here either. So I don't really see anyone other than the 2 that have already gotten the channel to interview. So we'll talk to the race winner, Blake Fallone and Aiden Young, but I'll let you get Aiden Young in the room first, and I'll bring him up right now.
Aiden Young, this is Ryan Daniels in the PSI TV booth. Do you have a copy?
I got you, Ryan.
Well, Aiden, we saw you running back there with your teammate the whole race long. That number 9 looked pretty good early on. You were playing the safe game there with your teammate, Matt Welsenbach, went to the back. Looks like you all played the pit strategy together, and that caution fell at just the right time, it would appear, and you just raced your way into the Daytona 250. How does it feel?
Oh, it feels freaking amazing. Not just because it's on my birthday, it's just so amazing that I have 4 good teammates that'll freaking help me to this point.
Well, we first want to wish you a happy birthday there in that number 9 machine, and obviously you must be thrilled because you went from being in that second pack about 20 seconds behind the leaders thinking there was no way you were going to make this race to finding yourself on basically a 1-lap dash to put yourself in here, and you did it. So congratulations to you and that 9 team. Is there anybody else out there you want to thank?
Yeah, I just want to thank Matt, Zach, Sawyer, the whole Jaeger team, Hope for Pause, all the guys that come out here to race, my family for letting me do this, and you guys for broadcasting.
Well, we thank you for taking the time. Congratulations on making the Daytona 250, and we look forward to speaking with you very soon.
Thank you.
And again, that was Aiden Young, who ended up finishing, fifth place tonight. And that top 5 is going to be good enough to lock him in. Now it's on to Duel Number 1 winner, Blake Fallone. Blake Fallone, this is Andrew in the PSI TV booth. Do you have a copy?
Got you loud and clear, Andrew. I've been waiting for one of these. How you doing?
Well, Blake, last year it was a BBR celebration after the Daytona 250. This time it's before the Daytona 250, but in a big way. You're the winner of Duel Number 1. How'd you do it?
Oh man, we had a good game plan. We stuck to it, played it safe first 35 laps or so. Pit stop was perfect, and just got lucky. Didn't get caught up in that caution, and then caution came out at the right time at the end of the race. So glad that I just came out. I saw the run coming up top, and it was sweating bullets. But glad to finally get the win. Put one in the win column. Then not a points race, but we'll take it. Good way to springboard. Now we got a good starting spot, considering our qualifying effort wasn't where we wanted it to be. Now I'll be starting outside our inside row too, so can't be too mad about that either.
Yeah, I mean that's a great boost to your starting spot. I'll bring up the list of the lineup one more time. Hopefully it actually loads. But you were pretty mired within the pack. You actually started, you started 12th tonight, which means you were going to line up, if you finished right there, something like 23rd. So to go from there to third place for the Monday starting spot, Monday night, the 19th, sorry, I'm just all over the place. That's got to feel pretty good, and obviously that's a big confidence booster going into Daytona racing alongside your brother Blaine.
Yeah, no kidding. This was exactly what our team needed, especially we didn't have the ending we wanted last year, but this is a huge starting, huge kick in the pants, especially after the icebreaker didn't go the way we wanted it. This is fantastic. I'm so happy for our guys, BB Racing, our affiliates over at WFO, everybody. Just glad we finally bring one home. We can park this one in the field of dreams, the field of real dreams, realized dreams. This one's going in.
Yeah, the joke is normally the BBR field of broken dreams within the league, but tonight there were no dreams broken, even for Blaine. He gets to celebrate with you, as he knows that, granted he may, let's see, where did he finish? Blaine finished somewhere, I know towards the back. Unfortunately, he got caught up in some drama. Actually, no, he's going to finish 7th, which means he should start around row, I want to say, 8. I think he'll be starting about 15th place in the show next week. So, I mean, that's still pretty good, actually, for him to be starting mid-pack and a little bit towards the front. So, I mean, obviously, like you said, a big confidence booster. Is there anyone that you want to give a shout-out to before we let you go?
Like I said, big shout-out to guys back at BB Racing, my brother, guys over at WFO. Shout-out to you guys for putting this on for everybody. And shout-out to the guy upstairs. Nothing's possible without him. And we're just, look forward to next week now even more.
Sounds good, man. Well, great run for you and that number 11 Pokemon machine. And we'll let you go. Let's see if you can do it again Monday night.
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
Again, that was Blake Fallone from BB Racing. And, I got to celebrate with him as race winner last season at Daytona in the actual show. And so it's pretty cool to see him celebrate as the race winner this time rather than just the team owner, as I was on his team to start the 2017 season. So it's pretty cool to see Blake Fallone finally get it, and in that special blue and yellow Pokemon truck. It's just really cool to see him and Blaine be able to celebrate a little bit more.
Yeah, very cool to have Blake and Blaine be able to be out there and celebrate together, both of them being in this race. Blaine was able to bring his 21 machine home in 7th. And you're right, last year you were running with BB Racing, and you were able to pick up the win here at Daytona for them. And looks like the trend continues for BB Racing here in the winter / spring race here at Daytona, with the 11 going to the top here in Duel Number 1. And it'll be interesting to see what happens here as we get ready to roll into Duel Number 2.
Yeah, and real quick before you have to go jump in the truck, Ryan, I feel like it's a trend for all of WFO and its affiliates. You had in the icebreaker, it was Bradley Wilson. In the Cup, shootout. Obviously, it wasn't a WFO driver, but there were still many WFO drivers right behind the winner, Corey Walters. The outside pole last night went to a WFO affiliate over at DCI. That was Jackson Allen, and you saw many WFO affiliated trucks in the front running for that pole position. And you'll see that reflected in just a few moments, or actually about 20 minutes, I think, in duel number 2. And obviously now you have one of them winning here at Daytona for duel number 1 over the offseason. These guys ran a lot of practice races. Zach Lindgren won a lot of those races for WFO. So I feel like it's mostly WFO trend. You go back to 2017, here in the spring weekend at Daytona, Spence Thompson won the ARC race, which that series has now been replaced by the super late models on Sundays. I was at the time a WFO affiliate. With BBR, won the Daytona truck race, and then in the Tuesday night series, in the Grand National Series, Robbie Buckner ended up winning. So when it comes to this winter/spring weekend, like you mentioned, it's really a WFO show, I think.
Yeah, the WFO guys definitely show up at these plate tracks. They love to work together just like any other teammates do. Those guys work really hard when we come to these places, and it's fun to be a part of that. I will admit, being on Team DCI and everything like that, it's a lot of fun having a lot of experienced restricted plate racers to work with and stuff like that. But this second duel is really going to be the one to watch, I think, because we got a lot of the heavy hitters in that one as well. We've got Tyler Justice coming up, Michael Redding, myself, Bradley Wilson, Robbie Buckner, a number of other big names here at the NMNTS, not just on WFO Motorsports, Riot Motorsports, or DCI. So it'll be definitely interesting to see what happens, and I'm actually waiting here for the session to load up so we can unload the 52 truck from the hauler.
Yeah, and I think the two biggest storylines right now, other than the results of this duel, would be Mike Bruno will not be making the show at Daytona, unfortunately. He will not be in the Daytona 250. He did definitely miss out by plenty of positions, unfortunately, so we won't see the number 19 in competition next week. That really is a bummer because he's one of the championship favorites, I feel like, and he won't be able to race at Daytona. That's a huge blow to that team, really. Unfortunately, they couldn't procure a charter for that team, and Daytona already just a big amount of heartbreak, I think, for that team. And but you do have his teammate. You were mentioning hard hitters going into duel number 2. His teammate, Tyler Justice, I think is one of the biggest hard hitters in this series, if not the biggest. Obviously, he's a reigning champion. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the upcoming duel number 2. But that's been it for duel number 1 from Daytona. Ryan, as you mentioned, it's time for you to get in the 52 truck for DCI and see what you can do. So best of luck, man. What's your game plan? At least what you can spoil to us.
Well, the only thing that I'm going to spoil as far as my plan is that we do start at the back. I have been dealing with the flu over the past week, so I was really sick last night. I've been feeling much better today. Put in a really lackluster lap last night. That, and because I was not here for the drivers' meeting last evening, I did miss the rule change that we were not allowed to go under the double yellow line during my qualifying run, so that time was disallowed. However, thankfully, due to my charter, I am able to fall back on that if I have to. But the plan for the 52 is real simple. I'm going to wait out the first few laps, kind of see what happens, and then I'm just going to start trying to find my teammates, try to find Mr. Robbie Buckner, find Bradley Wilson, anybody like that in this race that'll work with me, and just try to see what we can get out of it. I know perhaps I don't really know what my teammate Jackson Allen's plan is. I know that he's going to start on the pole for this race after getting the outside pole for next week's race, but we'll see what he does. If he decides to park it right away, then I will just kind of be on my own. If he decides he's going to run, that is perfectly fine, and I will try to get my way to him and just do what I can. But thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about it, and I will catch you guys very shortly.
And real quick, I don't know if you have to run away yet, but let's go through the results before we shut down the broadcast for duel number 1. Actually, this will continue into duel number 2, so stay right where you are. We'll go dark for a little bit as we do wait to get into duel number 2, but The results of duel number 1, Blake Fallone going to win. As we mentioned, Sawyer Ott in second, Zachary Kreiser in third. We didn't get to talk to them because I imagined we'd have more of the transfers in TeamSpeak. We didn't, but we'll try and get to talk to them at some point later on if we have the chance. They're your top 3 from duel number 1. Then it goes to Jared Mogard, Aiden Young, and Joe Pritchett. Those should be your 3 transfers into the Daytona 250. Blaine Fallone in 7th, Mark Richter and Trevor Harmon will go home. Unfortunately, they were 8th and 9th. Gordon Larson Jr. in 10th, Ryan.
Yes, and after them, if you can actually change the official results on the stream so that I can see it, only just because I have the simulator closed.
Well, Ryan, it's already been changed.
There we go. Now I can see it. I'm sorry. I'm behind. So 11th place was Mike Bruno. 12th was Matthew Welzenbach after that last lap crash. Ronald White in 13th. John Kennedy in 14th. Unfortunately, he does not make the race, nor does Ronald White. The 15th position will go to PJ Popham. 16th will go to David Heiza. 17th to Terry Mason. 18th to Zach Lindgren. 19th to Spence Thompson. And 20th will be Kenny Yance.
And then the final position in the field tonight was Jason Alexander, your pole sitter for the Daytona 250. He pulled it off early just to keep that truck in one piece. Not a bad move from him. But yeah, it's going to be so weird next week to not see the number 19 in the field. It really is. But Ryan, best of luck in the second duel. We'll see you over there very, very soon.
Yeah, 10-4. Thank you for having me up here. I look forward to it. And I'm going to go see if I can't Michael Waltrip my way into this field. We'll just see if we can bring home our first win in that 52 machine.
Sounds good, man. Best of luck. We'll be looking forward to it.
Thanks, buddy. I'll catch you guys later.
Will do. And, yeah, again, ladies and gentlemen, we will be going to duel number 2 very, very shortly. If there's any questions that any of you viewers have, put those in the chat. I'll be checking Twitch and YouTube in a moment. I do have to check with a possible commentator to help me out for duel number 2. And I'll be a little bit quiet for these next few minutes. But again, ask me any questions that you would like through the chats, and I'll be checking those out momentarily. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will send it to a dark screen for a few. Again, don't go anywhere. I'll reshare the stream to a few different places so you can tune back in. But this will be a continuous stream through to the second duel here tonight. So again, do not move a muscle. Do not go anywhere. Stay tuned into PSI TV, and you'll catch the second of 2 NMNTS SimSpec Championship Series duels here tonight very, very soon. I don't see any questions out in the chat, but if you have any, let me know now. This is your final chance before we go to the next stream. And so I will keep an eye out just in case anyone has any questions for me. And I'm trying to line up another commentator here tonight, so if you give me just a moment. I'm just messaging him now. But again, yeah, guys, if you have any questions, I know there's still some of you hanging on, a couple of stragglers, and I appreciate you staying tuned in. I don't see anything coming up, so we will cut to the break between duels number 1 and 2. Oh, that's okay. That's a big blue box. Don't want to have a big blue box. But yeah, I don't see any questions, so we'll be cutting away in just a moment. Give just about 30 more seconds in case anyone has one. I'm still not seeing any, so without further ado, I think we're going to cut away, and we will see you back very, very soon for Duel number 2 from Daytona. Welcome back, race fans, to the Daytona International Speedway. As you can see, night has fallen over this 2.5-mile monster, and this time I've got for, the first NMNTS Monday Night Thunder Truck Series champion, Spence Thompson, along with his teammate, Zach Lindgren, in the booth. Guys, welcome up here.
Hey,
Appreciate
thanks for
it.
having us up here.
Thank you. I was going to say, thank you for having us.
Beat you to it.
Yeah, so guys, real quick, while I finish the last few things with IRTVO, Spence actually, you know, Zach, you're here all the time, but Spence, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely, man. Like you just kind of mentioned, I was the first ever Monday Night Thunder Series champion on iRacing here for us. It was definitely a heck of an honor to be able to do that the first time around. Definitely have a little bit of more racing experience other than just on iRacing here. We did race on console years back, and I never won any titles on there, but definitely had a little bit of success. Went through a rough patch for a little bit, and then got back into the league there and was able to have some good runs. And like you said, was able to win that 2016 title, nearly won the Grand National title last season, then was in contention for the Truck Series title again last year, so it was all around a good season last year.
Yeah, he did really good last season. We're in contention for 2 of the 3 championships last season in the NMNTS, and this season I expect more of the same out of you in that number 89. I think these guys are getting ready to grid up. So, guys, this is duel number 2 here from Daytona in the NMNTS Spec Championship Series. And you guys were just in duel number 1. What was it like?
Well, definitely from my point of view, but of course I really couldn't say much. I had some issues early on into the race. Other than that, though, the early part of the race was not too bad. But as time went on, though, we definitely kind of got strung out for a little bit. And then there was one of the big wrecks late in the race, and that kind of set up a little shootout. And had, of course, the other small crash at the end of the race, and it pretty much ended right there. So, I mean, you're definitely going to see a lot of probably a lot of the same stuff early on in this one here, I think, though. You're going to see some guys trying to kind of settle in, maybe run double file for a little bit, and then kind of get settled down, try to log some laps and get ready for that one pit stop. But then I think as time goes on late in that race, it's going to get amped up again.
Yeah, I could see these guys probably learning a little bit from heat number, or sorry, not heat number 1, but duel number 1, and, you know, ride a little easier at the start. We saw pretty much like, I think, 4 incidents that didn't result in a caution, but were pretty darn close to it at the start of the race. You guys somehow navigated your way through. Hopefully we don't see any of that. Hopefully we don't see any of those weird instances like that, but let's go down to the grid, and Zach, I'll give you the top 10.
All right, so rolling off row number 1, we're going to have Jackson Allen sitting on the pole with Chris Titus sitting second. Going to be starting third is going to be Robbie Buckner in the 90. Starting fourth is going to be Bradley P. Wilson. Starting fifth is going to be Mark Broderick. Starting sixth is going to be Joseph Anduar. Seventh is going to be Tyler Justice in the 7. Eighth is going to be Jared Beasley in the 15 truck. Ninth is going to be Brad Cross. And rounding out our top 10 is going to be Jared with Sean.
And in 11th, we have Michael Redding in the number 2 from Evil Outlaws Racing. His associated teammate, Jason Burgess, will start his outside in the number 23 from Gunslinger Motorsports. And one of his teammates, actually, Corey Walters, will be starting in the 13th position with Derek Robinson in 14th. Moving on to row number 8, we've got Ron Miller in the 16 and Ryan Daniels in the 52. And I think behind them, we have Jeffrey Ford and Craig Lerman, David Levine and Clayton Kurtz, and Jake Little at the very back of this pack. So, Zach, you're very familiar, so I'll give you the start. But Spence, real quick before we do, who would be your pick to win duel number 2 here tonight?
Well, definitely, man. It's going to be a hard one to kind of pick a favorite in this one, though. But I mean, you can't look far past those Evil Outlaws cars, though, tonight. But I'll tell you what, someone who definitely, when the time is right and when he can make something happen, you got to go with that 59 truck. I mean, definitely with a lot of real life experience that he has and knowing what these trucks will do in Daytona and some situations that he'll be in. I think with the time is right, if he's up in that pack, though, you got to go with that 59 truck. But don't count a few of the others out, though, too. Definitely, I think from earlier this week in Speed Weeks, that 90 truck definitely showed some power as well. So keep an eye on some of them other guys there, too.
Sounds good. Well, going to the front, As you mentioned, Zach, it's Jackson Allen on the pole. He took the outside pole for the Daytona 250. And Zach, it's your call for the start of duel number 2.
Alrighty, well, as the pace car gets ready to take a hard left here, the green flag comes out relatively quick. We're going to have Jackson Allen, Chris Titus on front. Green flag is out. We are underway here at Daytona under the lights. Green flag out for duel number 2.
I love the enthusiasm there, Zach. So far, Jackson Allen off and away. He has most of his truck ahead of Chris Titus, now a full truck ahead of him. Robbie Buckner on his bumper, Mark Broderick behind Robbie, and up top it's going to be Chris Titus leading the top line. Joseph Andujar coming back to the series currently in the 5th position. Second up top, Jared Beasley has fallen back off of his bumper, but he is also on the top line. Tyler Justice now coming into the mix, Spence.
Well, definitely, and you can already see that inside line already forming up right there early. But then, of course, the thing is that we saw in the early race this afternoon, though, the high line was definitely able to do stuff with a lot of cars that get formed up there, and you got a lot of fast trucks up there. The high line can definitely work, though, as they come off of turn 4.
And like Spence was saying, like, the high line can definitely work. You just got to have the right guys behind you to push you. And I'm not saying that none of these guys are the wrong guys to be up there. I'm just saying the guys behind you have to have momentum. You have to have momentum being pulled from the front of you. The high line can work. You just need a lot of right things to go your way in order to get yourself up front. The bottom line just pretty much has to stick together, not split up, and there's gonna keep tabs on the high line. The high line needs to do a lot of work, but in the end, if you're on the high line, you get a run, it pays you dividends. It takes you to the front, and it just doesn't stop.
Definitely, for sure, Zach. And as they always say in the real life sport as well here that we all love, man, you always got to have help. And the thing is, like, as time goes on, if you see that inside lane forming up again as they're inching forward, as now we see the 32 of Ryan Broderick move to the outside there from 3rd. And then Robbie Buckner trying to force his way up there. Can't do it, gets shoved up 3 wide going into turn 1 and 2 here for the lead.
3 wide in the front, Spence, you're right, and Robbie Buckner using up the right door of Jackson Allen through turns 1 and 2. They'll make it through just fine somehow, some way, but now Mark Broderick getting shuffled back. I don't think Chris Titus is going to let him in. Joseph Andujar might, just to avoid incident, but here comes the 13 now on the inside. Actually, no, he's going to back out. I think he's going to give Mark some room.
And you can already see,
in contact, Michael Redding!
With the 2 car.
And it's a huge one!
Caution will be out.
David Levine involved, Jared Beasley involved, Jared was Sean.
Man, we see a lot of cars in that turn 4 wreck right there. There's a lot of good cars that were taken out in that wreck. It started with Michael Redding get a little bit of a hit from his teammate in the 32 of Ryan Broderick as they went through the turn.
Yeah, you saw the 32 come down and get in line, and then the 2 just, I mean, we'll go back and get a look, but it almost looked like the 2 just was a little bit high and made contact with his teammate and got loose and ended up losing it off the apron. We'll watch one more time. Watch for the number 2, the orange number center of your screen here. And yeah, they actually kind of drove into each other. The 2 came up. Don't know why. The 32 was coming down. He came a little too far down initially when he moved into that spot. And Zach, just absolute carnage from there.
Yeah, from what it looks like I'm seeing, Michael tried to get into the corner. There's no such thing as getting into the corner a little bit too hot, but he did get on the apron, which shoved his truck back up the track just a little bit. And I think Ryan Broderick was trying to just slam the door in front of Joseph to try to get himself back in line and behind the 25 and drafting again. And as soon as all these just came together, him and Michael Redding was just coming together, which caused the caution. Michael losing it, and right in front of the field, it looks like Ryan Daniels was involved. A whole slew of cars, honestly, was involved.
Right, because we can also see, though, that 52, as soon as he could see the 2 of Michael Redding get a little bit loose right there, it's like you got a fraction of a second to try to figure out what you're going to do, how you're going to slow up there. And the guys behind him, they can't see that right there either. I mean, they're in that pack 2-3 wide there, going so fast, about 180-something miles an hour. And it's like you get a split second to react in these situations. Once that happens, you're pretty much on from there.
Yeah, and you can see just the whole slew of trucks in a mess out of turn 4. Really early, you see Michael Redding with some issues. We're going to go even slower this time and watch the wreck. We're going to go, let's see who we can find that'll actually give us a good angle. And just, there's nowhere to go for a lot of these guys. really, truly, there's nowhere to go for guys like Ryan Daniels, who was right behind Michael Redding. He tried checking up, couldn't check up in time. Then you see there's going to be Corey Walters. I'm sorry for the shaking on your screen. Corey Walters trying to miss it. Brad Cross, just an innocent bystander as the 2 gets hooked back up. Craig Lerman, Ron Miller, David Levine, Jared Wishon, Derek Robinson, Jeffrey Ford, Jake Little barely gets through there in the number 41. I don't know how he did that. Actually, he did get a little bit of left front damage, sorry. But just still a power move from the 41, but just absolute carnage in the back, guys.
And as always they say, too, it never hurts to have a little bit of luck when you're trying to get through one of these wrecks either.
And look at there's someone who avoided the wreck. Go back up to the 28 of Corey Walters. He was right behind the 2 and 52 of Ryan Daniels and Michael Redding. Escaped with little to no damage. And he was right behind Ryan Daniels when that whole thing unfolded. He had a good, he had a lucky break right in front of him and a lucky break right behind him.
And you know who else navigated his way through that wreck beautifully, Zach? Clayton Kurtz in the number 61, trying to race his way into the only transfer spot available in this race. He got right through that wreck in the Hamburg Auto Toyota Tundra, and he's still running in that number 61. He has a shot to get in. We'll see if I can pull up the list of drivers working their way in, and let's see. See if I can find it. I'll turn it over to you guys for a moment, though.
Well, Spence, there's a huge mashup already. It's really already shaken up the whole field. What do you expect to see now that this first big wreck's under our belt, getting ready to come to the green here?
Well, it definitely has shaken it up, Zach, for sure. I think you're definitely going to see maybe a little bit more cautious racing from some of these guys up front here. I mean, it was definitely aggressive for those first couple laps there, as we saw. And as we also saw right there, one little mistake like that will cause you a lot of trouble. And as we just saw right there in turns 3 and 4, Michael getting those left side just a little bit on the flat of the track right there, pretty much just caused up the whole field. But I mean, definitely you still got a few contenders still left in this thing. But as we can see, anything can happen in these Daytona restrictor plate races.
Real quick before the restart, thanks guys for carrying that. The 61 and the 25, Clayton Kurtz and Chris Titus respectively, are the 2 pretty much racing for the final spot to get in. The 30, Brad Cross just got wrecked. The 16, Ron Miller got wrecked. The 95, Jeffrey Ford got wrecked. And the 92, Chris Matthews, is not here tonight. At least not that I've seen. So, guys, looking up for the number 61 and the number 25 to just have a battle to the end. But they are coming to the green flag this time. Jackson Allen on the inside, Tyler Justice on the outside. Green flag is back out. The row 2, actually, Robbie Buckner and Joseph Andujar way behind these 2 leaders.
Don't feel like it'll hurt them too bad though right here though, as we can see sometimes they get pretty good runs though in these trucks compared to the Cup cars that will race tomorrow night. But I feel like as you see this race go on, I feel like it's going to probably get to that point where people are just going to try to log laps here. But just as we say that, though, here goes Robbie on the outside lane once again, trying to get that lead, trying to come off turn 2 onto the back stretch.
Now Tyler Justice to the top side. He's going to use that top side momentum to get by Jackson Allen into turn 3. He's looking for room, Zach.
And really, that was a really smart move. If the low line's kind of checking up and you have momentum catching the guy in front of you and you jump to the high line, that's going to slow up the low line even more because they got to check up for the guy in front of him that was slowing up for the reason that you jumped out of line. Obviously there it didn't get Tyler past him, but it got him dead even with, Jackson Allen, which Tyler will lead the lap that time just a nose in front of Jackson, so it paid dividends there for Tyler, as Robbie's right now pushing the heck out of Tyler, and Chris Titus is pushing the heck out of Jackson.
Yeah, and I gotta mention, Jackson Allen can lose his outside pole position for the Daytona 250 and go to the rear of the field. He has a charter, so he's locked in, but he could end up having to go to the back depending on how he races this race. If he was to get involved in an accident tonight, he could have to go all the way to the back for the start next Monday on February 19th. Now, hopefully that doesn't happen, obviously. We would hate to see him lose his lock, but that could mean that the winner of this race could go on to start in second for the actual show, and that could be a really big momentum booster. You guys can attest to that, Zach and Spence, firsthand.
Oh, definitely, man. It's like one of them deals where if you know you got a good truck and you know you got track position at the start of these races, it seems like it's always key when you got track position there early on. You can try to stay out of that hornet's nest and be able to just kind of get up front, log laps there. But I mean, but then of course on the other hand though too, even being the leader, you're not always safe though either. Some crazy stuff can happen up there if you're racing side by side with somebody. As we can see, both the 4 and the 7 racing still side by side coming here into turn 3 and 4 here. Even just one little wrong little bump draft, whether it's getting into the corner or even coming off, try to get that side draft, 2 cars come together, even that could even ruin your day. But I mean, we can already see though how Jackson Allen's kind of handling himself here, just kind of, you know, staying down there on the bottom, just kind of logging laps here, whatever happens to him. But I mean, I'm sure probably if he finds himself in a situation here where he gets back in the pack a little bit, I'm sure you'll probably see some smarts kick in here, so to speak, and he'll probably just sit there right in the back of the pack, unless he feels like he can try to get back up there and see what his truck can do.
Yeah, and I want to call attention real quick to the 52 of Ryan Daniels. As we see the shot coming straight down the back straightaway, you can see the damage poking out on the white front end of the number 52, and you saw it a moment ago back to the TV camera. You can see it there. Oh, actually, Tyler Justice getting hooked up in the front.
He saves it.
That's Kyle Busch, 2014.
Of last season in the trucks.
Wow. That was a heck of a save.
That was a close one right there. As they continue into the stretch here, come past the start-finish line here, he'll drop to the end of at the end of this pack. But man, was that a crazy save right there. Great job by everybody in that little exchange.
Yeah, I look at that save, and I think back to Kyle Busch a few years ago. I think 2013, actually. It was either 2013 or 2014 when he was doing the same exact thing. Obviously, a lot more sparks in real life, but the same exact thing. However, you do see that put a ton of damage on the front end of the 51 as he was trying to check up Bradley Wilson, who started from the pits, I believe, now with a ton of damage on the 51.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that there too, Andrew. I mean, I was taking a look at that 51 and that little wreck right there when Tyler made that save. You can definitely see a little bit of left front damage right where that right where it comes over the tire right there on the left side. That may hurt him if he's trying to lead a pack leg right there with him and Tyler Justice when he's up in front of Tyler there. He may not be getting the best aero coming over that car.
Yeah, and actually, I'm seeing a lot more front-end damage than that. I think he plowed into the back end of the 25 trying to check up. Chris Titus, you see, has the back-end damage to match. But I was just going to mention, as these guys go by Jeff Ford, who actually just blew up, that was a close call there. Ryan Daniels has a lot of front-end damage himself, and that's from the initial wreck. And you see he's still, I mean, he's in the top 5, now top 4, and he's somehow still in this to win it. Zach, what do you think about these two?
You know, it's... I've tried to run some super speedway races with damage on the hood, and it makes the whole race just that much harder because it's slowing you down. It's like a parachute. It's like you're trying to race with the parachute on the back of your car. It really does slow you down, but as long as you've got a car in front that's braking the air and a car behind you pushing you, you're all fine and dandy. Right now, Ryan Daniels doing an excellent job with that front end damage. Same thing with Bradley Wilson right now, doing an excellent job with that front-end damage, keeping up with these guys. But should they try to get out lead a line, it's going to be like a parachute to that whole line. But these guys are doing a great job right now. One thing that they do, however, have to keep an eye on would be their temps.
Oh, and Chris Titus just dumped the 52. Clayton Kurtz gets through it. He's in the transfer position right now, actually. No caution is out. Chris Titus now falls out of the transfer position, and he just took himself out of it. He's got a ton of damage. He's coming into the pits.
That is incredible. One little mistake, one big instance like that right there, like I was talking about earlier here in the broadcast, it's stuff like that can instantly take you out of a chance of being this 250 next week. And we could see it right there.
Yeah, and we're going to go on board with the 51, who is right behind this. Bradley Wilson, you'll see his view of this. I mean, just really aggressive side drafting out of the 25. I think you have to allow for the bobbles that we saw, just like, the bobbles that will happen, just like we just saw out of the 52. That's why they just wrecked. The 52 barely bobbled like, usually happens, and you have to allow room for that. The Chris Titus didn't, and I think that's going to cost him his chance at running at Daytona now.
I definitely think so right there. As we saw right there, that just like you said, that little bobble right there, I mean, there was barely no room for error right there when that happened right there. I mean, you only got it, like you said, a split second to be able to react. And as we saw, well, as these guys continue to battle for the lead down the super stretch here, coming down in turn 3, we got Robbie Buckner, the leader, the 28 car of Corey Walters in second. Tyler Justice following in third after that amazing save earlier on. Bradley Wilson still following up in fourth place, but he's been definitely aggressive trying to get up there and try to maybe even help the 90 truck.
Oh, 7 into
Oh,
the
wow,
wall.
yeah.
Corey Walters into the wall as well.
Tyler
and that opens the door
Justice
for Bradley Wilson right here.
Yeah, Tyler Justice just went up to follow his teammate Corey Walters to try and make a move around the 90 of Robbie Buckner. It didn't work out. Now here comes Bradley Wilson to the top side. He's going to make a move to go with Corey Walters, but just Tyler Justice went too far up out of turn 4, put that truck in the fence. That's going to hurt him at some point. It may not hurt him too much, obviously, given how the 51 and 52 were doing. The 51's still in it, but here comes Clayton Kurtz, and right now, I think he should go behind the 4, actually, and just right at the back of this pack. He's currently in the Daytona 250.
For sure. Oh, and that was really close, as we just saw right there. Corey Walters in the 90 and the 7 car. Tyler Justice trying to get by the 59 truck of David Levine right there. Very close racing right there. Everyone got through it okay as they come to start-finish line. We saw that good side-by-side battle right there when Bradley Wilson was helping out the 90 truck of Robbie Buckner. But as we see now, he's starting to fall back just a little bit off of that lead 3 right there.
Yeah, Clayton Kurtz has actually fallen back a little bit with his teammate Bradley Wilson, and they're kind of just maintaining the gap to the trucks ahead of them right now, I think. They probably backed out of it just to save their trucks. Robbie Buckner has no choice at the moment. He's stuck with the 28 of Corey Walters and the 7 of Tyler Justice, and he shouldn't go anywhere either. I think, there's only 3 now in this immediate first group, and if he stays right there, they're in a really good spot. The 3 of them to just keep running fast laps out here. I want to check in on the 52 of Ryan Daniels. We saw him in an accident not too long ago, and he is stuck in the pits. I don't think he'll be back running on the speedway tonight, guys.
That's unfortunate for him. He's always one of them guys that you talk to even before the race gets underway. He has such a passionate drive to do these plate races. I mean, it's almost like the exact opposite for me. But I mean, when you talk to Ryan Daniels, like I was talking about, it seems like, I mean, he always likes to get in these trucks for plate racing. He has a good shot to win these things. He goes in there with always a lot of confidence right there, and it's just a heartbreak to see him in that wreck today.
Yeah, it really is. And Zach, a little further back, you've got a third group now forming, and this consists of 7th place Mark Broderick and 8th place Joseph Anduhart. Do you think there's anything they can do to catch up?
As long as they stay single file and keep pushing at each other, yes. We did a fun race earlier this preseason in NMNTS, and I was able to push Joseph Vanduar, just me and him, from about a 1.5 seconds behind the lead pack all the way up into the lead pack. Right now they have another tag along with Jason Burgess right in front of them. So I believe if they're able to stay single file, keep pushing at each other, and not really hurt each other's momentum, hurt each other's air, they have a great chance of catching up to these guys back up front here. Even though they are 6 seconds back, they are going to have to work their way up. It is very possible for them to get up there and work against these guys.
Yeah, it definitely is, as we're riding on board with Anduhar coming through the tri-oval. This really has been, as Blake Fallone put in the chat, crazy compared to the first race. I think the first duel was really calm compared to this. A ton of action so far tonight, guys.
Oh, for sure. And I think, and earlier, I'm not knowing if you guys are noticing this either, but Bradley Wilson, for whatever reason, has fallen out of the event right here.
Yeah, I was just looking at that as well.
So there's another one of the possible contenders. He was talking about earlier today before we got this race underway that he was definitely going to be going aggressive and as fast as he could to try to get up to that front and try to get as close as he could to the start of the or to the front of the pack for the 250 next week. But as we can see right here, coming off or going down through the second short chute coming out of the tri-oval, we still got Corey Walters leading in the 28 truck, Robbie Buckner in that WFO ride there in second place, and Tyler Justice right behind him there in third place. And then, of course, you got Jackson Allen in the fourth, Clayton Curtis in the 61 truck right there, and then the pack of 3 trucks, as you were talking about, Zach, was the 23 of Jason Burgess. Of course, he's not on the lead lap here, but Ryan Broderick trying to use him as a, I wouldn't say not as a pick here, but as like an aid, try to help him get back up to that, back up to that lead few.
And Spence, you and I know how to do this. Unfortunately, in the last duel, some of your equipment went out a little bit at an unfortunate time. It put you in the back of the pack. It put you a few laps down. You were able to help me just a little bit get up into the front. That's pretty much what they've got to do at this point. Even though Jason Burgess isn't technically in the contention to run for the top spot as of right now, he still does have teammates, and he does have a teammate duty to get up there and help his teammates get up there and win. So I think right now these guys, Evil Outlaw Motorsports, they're doing a great job working together right now. They have caught and passed the 61 and 4 of Jackson Allen and Clayton Kurtz. Now it's going to be interesting to see if they actually join together to try to catch Tyler, Robbie, and Corey up there in front.
And guys, what you two just completely missed is if I ever... Sorry, my God, I'm trying to go too fast. No, what you guys just completely missed in the front was something I was hoping I could get a word in on before it happened, but Tyler Justice, a lap previously, fell way back off of the 90 of Robbie Buckner and actually was kind of feathering the throttle. Now you see him doing it again. He's going to use a run to get to the top side of Robbie Buckner. I think he and Corey Walters are trying to leave the 90.
I think so. I think you're definitely right there. Because what they're going to try to do here, right here, like you were talking about, the 7 of Tyler Justice is going to try to lay back off of that 90 truck, as you were just talking about. And what Corey's going to try to do is he's going to try to pull up there and try to give the 7 the pull when Tyler is able to get that run. And they're going to try to shuffle that 90 truck back into 3rd place. But I think, though, as long as Robbie is kind of able to maybe cut off the progress of the 7 truck right there, I don't think you'll be able to see the 7 car try to get up alongside the 90.
And you know, the more and more these guys battle, the more and more Tyler Justice, the more and more he does this, it's going to take away their momentum and thus creating more momentum for the guys behind them to catch them. These guys were 6 seconds back. They're almost 2 whole seconds back now. These guys are catching them quick, and if these guys keep battling up front, we're going to have about an 8-car, 6-car shootout for the top spot here.
Oh, absolutely, man. They're like, because that you hit the nail right on the head right there. Because as you can see, when Tyler breaks that draft and he's not keeping it really, really tight, that is definitely allowing that second 3 to get back up there, or the second 4, I should say, and almost even the second 5 right there. Is now they got the 61 truck trying to latch onto the back of this pack here as they come through the try over here to complete lap 25, halfway right here. Yeah, these guys definitely in the second pack right here that you can see they're trying to keep that draft really, really tight and just stay in line so they can try to be able to run down that front 3 and hopefully make this a 7-car race at the end of this deal here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening to the 61 of Clayton Kurtz in the Handbrake Auto Toyota Tundra, but like you mentioned, Spence, he has started falling back and starting to lose the draft of the 4 ahead of him. The good news for him is if he can hang on to the back end of this draft, win the 4 ahead of him, catch the 3 leaders, that'll form a bigger hole in the air, and he might be able to draft back up, but it's going to be really tough. He's so far back right now.
Well, speaking of catching the leaders, the 32 of Mark Broderick is on the 7's tail. He's actually looking to the high side, coming across the line.
And as you can see, he tried to get that, and he got that spectacular run on the 7 car right there, tried to go up there. It looked like the 23 was going to try to follow him right there. The hole closed up too fast. But now, as we're talking about right here, this has just become a whole new race. Once again, the double file coming out of the turn 2 out of the back stretch.
Oh, man, and there were 2 very close calls. You saw the 4 give a push to Mark Broderick, and it was a little bit lopsided to the left. That almost sent the 32 around. He's going to try and push him again here, getting him a little bit more loose. Now he's going to move down in front of the 28. What a power move.
What a move.
What a power move out of Jackson Allen. You also saw about a lap ago now, David Levine on the bottom side. He was trying to let these guys go. He was actually on the apron. Now Corey Walters to the top side. Now Jackson Allen's playing Pied Piper.
Such aggressive here.
And now he's back in front of Robbie Buckner. Robbie Buckner's going to push that 4 car.
Oh! Beasley!
That is
my!
Right there.
Madness.
And I'm sure as these guys are racing right here, I mean, they got to be able to communicate with them lap cars. I mean, as we saw, that was a close call for that 28 truck, and even all these leaders when the lap car there, Jared Beasley, got up in there. It was definitely very important for us, a lot of these leaders, to be able to communicate with those lap cars and make sure they can give them the lines that they need to be able to get through there.
And you just saw the 4 get squirrely again off the front bumper of the 90. He hung on to it, but out of turn 4, Robbie Buckner got that 4. Oh, and he moved up!
And
contact with how did they not wreck? How have they not wrecked?
I'll tell you what, guys, it's past halfway. The clock's ticking right here. These guys know that, and they're trying to get every position that they can.
But I'm hoping some drivers from Duel 1, I'm sorry to cut you off, Andrew, but I'm hoping some drivers from Duel 1 was watching that. When the 32, 4, and 23 caught these guys, and the 4 and 32 went up to the high side, they pretty much moved themselves all the way to the front without any help from anybody. They took the gap completely away from this top pack and moved themselves right into the front. Granted, they're not up there now, besides the 4 of Jackson Allen leading the pack, but the hole in draft was so much there that it flung these guys right into the top spot.
Yeah, that was just insane. I mean, that was great driving, though, between the 28 and the 4. I want to go back to that real quick because that was crazy when Corey Walters and Jackson Allen made contact about a lap ago. Now Corey Walters back to the top side after dipping to the bottom. Here comes Joseph Andujar getting back into the mix.
Yeah, and he can probably be talked about where the heck did he come from drivers tonight in this race, I think like later on, I mean, as this race goes on here, as we get close to 20 laps to go here pretty quick here, I think one of these surprises right there, if nothing happens to him, I think Joseph Andujar could be one of these guys that could probably pull this off if he's able to be in the right position at the end.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's in a really prime position right now. Currently drafted up to the 3rd position on the bottom line. That puts him about 5th overall. And, I mean, if something happens ahead of him, he's there to make, I guess, make a pounce, make a move, see what he can do. Now, Bradley Wilson in front of the top line right now. He's slow. And, God, they're going to try and squeeze through. Contact almost made.
Yeah, but they're able to get through that right there, coming out of turn 2 and onto the super stretch here.
Oh, and Corey Walters
just barely squeezing in behind that 90 truck of Robbie Buckner right there. That one was a close one. And now we see the 13 of Joseph Andujar getting into the mix right here, right behind the 4-car Jackson Allen as they hit turn 3.
Yeah, the 90 switched lines. He's now in front of Corey Walters on the top side. Now Jackson Allen is almost defenseless, but he has Joseph Andujar coming to his rescue soon enough. Mark Broderick has now moved to the bottom. Tyler Justice with him. Jason Burgess behind him. They're coming up on a couple more lap cars. Man, this is tight.
Very tight.
Now Roddy Buckner on the bottom side, shuffling the 28 out.
And you could see right there for a split second there, the 13 wanted to be able to go up there and try to help the 90 car of Robbie Buckner right there to try to get him to the front. But you could see how the hole closed up right there as they ran on that lap traffic in the trioval right there. But now he's following straight in line right there behind the 90 and the 4-car of Jackson Allen.
So yeah,
and you can tell Joseph Andujar wants that high side.
Definitely, and even with all that shuffling we saw a couple of laps ago, the WFO 3 that I want to say that are aligned right here in this front group, Robbie Buckner, Jackson Allen, and Joseph Andujar, that are all aligned in one way or another, it's very convoluted, are now back as they were on the bottom side before. Robbie Buckner leading, or well, maybe not in the same order, but they're together again on the bottom line controlling this race.
But then, of course, as we can see, though, right behind them 3 right there, you got the 28 car of Corey Walters, got the 32 of Ryan Broderick, and the 7 of Tyler Justice all associated right there. So, I mean, at the end of this race, when it comes down to it, inside 10 laps to go, we could see these front 6 get double file right here and try to go for this win here.
Well, but you have to keep in mind, these guys will have to pit.
Oh, yeah, and those pit stops are definitely going to be coming up here in probably about, I would say, in another 5 to 10 laps or so here, because you cannot run this full race on a full tank of fuel. But what we saw in that earlier in the duel earlier here,
oh, here they come, here they come.
The pit stops right here.
Here come the Evil Outlaw guys and Gunslinger Motorsports into the pit lane. Actually, mostly Gunslinger. You see Jason Burgess, Tyler Justice, Mark Broderick, and Corey Walters all hitting the pit lane. This is what I was just talking about. The pit stops are going to come. I think the caution came out a little too soon for it to just be a run to the finish. These guys will have to pit and get fuel. They don't want tires. That'll slow them down. They just want fuel. Zach, you know firsthand, having to make green flag pit stops, how important is it?
There you go. They're down and away right there.
It is extremely important to make sure this pit stop counts. You make any little mistake, and it takes a while for you to get back up to speed. And because you're on older tires, you start sliding through the pits. You try to get out of your pits like normal fresh tires. You want to slam on the gas, but you can't because of old tires. I fell victim to that earlier in the duel. Earlier today, it looked like Corey Walters almost did it as well, he was able to get out of his pitch just fine. But as they're getting ready to merge themselves back up on the backstretch here, they're not completely together, in which Robbie, Jackson, and Joseph are. They could possibly get lapped here.
Well, these guys up front will have to stay out. They have to stay out as long as they can and wait on a caution. Now, the hand was just forced. If they pit, they're pretty much giving up the hand that they have. However, what I am noticing from Jackson Allen is he is really following the 90s back in, and he can't do that. Obviously, you don't want to hit somebody way to the left or way to the right, but he can't follow the 90 because if he follows the 90 and he moves his truck and the 90 moves as well, he's going to turn him. We saw it in Duel Number 1. If he follows the back end of Robbie Buckner too much, he will turn him. And the other thing is he has to start laying back off of Robbie Buckner a little bit, or they're going to lose Joseph Andujar. Two trucks together go faster than that truck on the back. Oh my, this is not going to be fun.
On some lap traffic right here. That was close right there.
Way
but now
to
you can see it a little bit right here. It almost looked like the 13 car of Joseph Andujar is losing a little bit of ground to those front two right there. But
and
I
that's
think,
what I was...
though, as you can... Yeah, that's exactly what you were just talking about there earlier, Andrew, because like you said, if you can keep 3 cars up there and be able to keep that draft, 3 cars are going to be better than just the 2 cars by themselves. But I'll tell you, as they come off of turn 4 again right here, they're still staying on the racetrack, it looks like here. Coming down to 15 to go here, but like you said, the 4 cars got to be careful with how close he's following that 90 car, because as you said, one little mistake like that, if they go to move and try to take up the same real estate, that could turn that 90 car and their race could be done.
And there's 2 things he has to worry about, because he could hook the 90 like we were talking about, and again, he could start losing the 13 for these guys, and all he has to do is ride the brake a little bit, maintain the gap between the 90 and the 13 behind him, and he can keep the 13 with them. They can keep a 3-truck line and they can go faster, but it's a lot easier for the 3rd truck in line to lose these 2 ahead if they aren't careful. But I think now Jackson Allen, somebody must have told him what we were talking about, because Jackson Allen's starting to back off of the 90, and here comes the 13.
I was going to say, they must just be communicating right there, because now, as we can see now, they got that 3-car draft going again right here on that inside lane right there. So now we might be able to see them, like you said, just log a few more laps here and get ready for that 1 pit stop right there to see what they're going to do. And most likely, just like those other 3 cars there that we just saw make those pit stops, these guys will most likely just go in for that splash of fuel and then try to get back out as smoothly as they can and get back up to full song.
Now, I'm just thinking about this here. These guys are about 40 seconds or 30 seconds in front of Clayton Kurtz. Clayton is all by himself running all alone right now. 40 seconds in front of Corey, Tyler, and Ryan. Do you think if these guys have a little bit of radio communication and if they were to back off just a little bit, do you think they'd be able to save enough going all the way towards the end to where Tyler, Ryan, and Corey can't run them down, but they do save enough to get themselves across the line, across the checkered?
The answer is no. I'm looking at the gap.
That would be awfully, awfully close.
I'm looking at the gap, and it's widening. You see the interval. Well, you guys can't see, but the interval from Clayton Kurtz in 4th to Corey Walters in 5th is just narrowing. It's now down to 4 seconds and closing. It was just at 6 about 30 seconds ago, and they are just catching him. There's no way they can do it.
No, I was just about to say that right there. I mean, that was a close one right there as they go into turn 3, and Robbie Buckner is on the flat a little bit. Nice save.
Was able to
and that's
save
what we were just talking about right there, too.
Oh, but Joseph Andujar, he almost went inside of Jackson Allen. He almost messed this whole thing up.
Right there.
That was very costly, but
costly for all 3 of these leaders right there. That could have changed the complexion of this race dramatically. And now, as we see right there, Joseph Andujar's got to be careful right there. He cannot break that draft, because now that was just able to allow that second lead, or that second 3 cars, the 28, the 7, and the 32 there, that's going to allow them to close a little bit of ground right there after they had to check up like that.
And moving back to this 3rd group, Jason Burgess has fallen off. I'm not sure what happened, but now it's just Corey Walters, Tyler Justice, and Mark Broderick. They're catching the 61. They'll go right by. Clayton Kurtz actually got in the way of them to kind of mess up their draft a little bit and try and get the draft here as they go on by, but I don't think it's going to happen. He's just going far too slow right now.
Yep, because as we can see right there, when you're out there by yourself right there, and you got either 2 cars or 3 cars all lined up, like we see the 28, the 7, and the 32 right now, you can just see they just went right on by him, and there was almost nothing that he could do, and now he's going to lose that lead, or that second lead 3 right there.
The good news is Clayton Kurtz is almost guaranteed a spot right now. As long as he finishes this race where he is, he's almost guaranteed a spot in Daytona. He's got about 2 laps back to the next car in 8th. That's Craig Lerman.
Yeah, so he's pretty much into the point where he's not going to be in contention for a win unless something drastic happens like we almost saw with the 90 and the 4 car right there. But I think at this point right here, you can definitely say that the 61 will be in the show next week at Daytona for that 250. And as we get down to 10 laps to go right here, it's going to be crucial for all 3 of these leaders right here to get in the pits, make smooth entries, get into their pit stall, not slide through the box, get that fuel in there, and then be able to get back out of that pit stall without possibly either spinning the tires too much where they get loose and lose time like that, and then be able to get back onto the track at the smoothest rate that they can right there, and the quickest rate that they can as well without losing so much time.
Yeah, and I was mentioning it with Ryan earlier on that you have to be perfect on these pit stops. You cannot slide your tires coming in. You cannot spin your tires coming out. You have to make sure you're in the box perfectly. You can't be too far forward, too far back, too far to the left, too far to the right. You have to nail this pit stop or you're going to lose time. Even if it's only a second or so, that could be the difference to you, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the meaning of everything, pretty much. 1 second here doesn't sound too much, but 1 second here is everything. If you don't have any help, if you don't have anyone in front of you, no air, no nothing, 1 second is going to be extremely costly to the point where you could lose your track position, you could lose your position, and lose even more because you don't have any help at all. So 1 second may not seem like a lot, but at a track like this, it most definitely is.
And here we can see the leaders coming in right now. And there we go. The contact is made. Around goes the 90 truck of Robbie Buckner.
And caution is out. That will change everything. Jackson Allen, Joseph Andujar will still make it into the pit lane, but Robbie Buckner, as you guys mentioned, got spun around there. Doesn't look like the damage is actually too bad, so he can just come in, get for Mr. Feelgoods, get some fuel, and I think he'll be okay with some minimal repairs. As you'll see, the 13 will go right through. I think the 4 will get his pit stop.
Right there. I definitely think we can see where the contact was made by the 4 car there as Robbie was getting ready to slow down and make his pit stop right there. We can see the back kind of crunched in just a little bit right there on the back end of the truck. The left rear side, or the left rear of the truck a little bit is kind of rolled in behind the tire a little bit. That may or may not cost him right there. But I mean, especially if he's trying to lead a pack, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes for him.
And Zach, I have a challenge for you. I think you need to go through this video afterwards and get a full compilation of all of Spence's right there's from this race.
I know.
Hey,
I was thinking the same thing. You said right there a lot.
You know what? It's a habit, right? For sure.
You better say it again.
I almost said it again, folks. You hear that? I can't help it.
Dang.
I kind of want to go through this now and just do a counter of how many times you've said
Andrew,
right there, Spence.
And Andrew, I'll tell you what. I'm going to hold you to this.
Oh,
we have to make it happen. I'll be in Daytona, so I can't do it. But Zach, this is on you. This has to happen at this point. Robbie Buckner will come in, make his pit stop. He was your leader. Jackson Allen completed his stop, I believe, and Joseph Andujar, I think, rolled right through the pit lane for fear of getting a penalty. But I don't think he would have gotten one even if he had made a stop. He entered, I think, while pits may have still been open. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens.
It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see how that is gonna play out, right? Because
you almost said it.
Listening to race control, it seems like there's a couple of people that might have gotten black flags while they were trying to make their pit stops.
I would imagine those would be the 4 and the 13. Yes.
I think so. I can't confirm anything on that, but I'm going to tell you it's going to change the race dramatically if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I'm not sure if those flags will be cleared. I mean, obviously the 13 and the 4 were going to enter the pits no matter what. There's nothing they could have done. If they get a black flag here, unfortunately, I think that's the wrong call. But we'll, it is what it is. I think they're both locked into the race anyways.
I can actually already see. and I can actually already, sorry to cut you off here, Andrew. I can actually already see that the 13 of Joseph Andujar has gotten a black flag cleared, so he's not going to be penalized at all. I don't know so far yet about the 4-car Jackson Allen because I could see that how they were kind of going in there to try to make their pit stops. I don't know if they were able to slow it down enough to where they could cut back onto the racetrack and then not make those stops. But I think, though, even at that point right there, I don't think they could I don't think it would have cost them too much. I think they would have been sent to the back of the pack by virtue of the penalty.
Well, we'll see what happens.
See how this end of this race plays out.
Jackson Allen just came in and parked it. I'm not sure why, but it looks like he may be done. Really bizarre move there from Jackson Allen. He may just feel so bad about getting into Robbie that he's parking it. You know, Jackson's a pretty cool guy. I wouldn't be totally surprised if that's the reason, but you know, he did make a couple of mistakes. You can't deny that. Obviously, nothing intentional. He got into Robbie just a little while ago through turns 1 and 2, got him all sideways, and then and you saw him. Jackson did try and dodge him to the left. He tried to turn left and missed the 90. He just didn't have the time to do so. The closing rate was so fast. I think Robbie just got on the brakes harder, and maybe Jackson didn't get on the brakes hard enough, and it's going to come back to bite both drivers. But now the Evil Outlaw mob, I guess, in the front, at least the top 3 positions are all Evil Outlaw or Gunslinger drivers.
Right, because so far right now, where they're going to line up right here, it looks like, of course I got to wait for the ticker to kind of cycle through right here. There we go. Yeah, definitely, but the thing is, though, you got Joseph Andujar, you got Clayton Curtis back in the mix up here. That caution definitely saved him, right? And then the 90 of Robbie Buckner after he was involved in that little deal coming onto into the pits, but it doesn't look like any one of them are out of this race yet here, though. We could see definitely some more excitement here as we come in for 5 laps to go.
And I'm still looking here at Jackson Allen. He's still sitting right here on the in the pit lane. Don't really know what's going on. Like you said, Andrew, he might have just been sitting there just because of just that guilty feeling that he probably has there. Many of us have been guilty of that, and so have I. So it looks like he's just sitting there. He has ran laps in this race, so he still will be on the front row for the 250 next week on the 19th, I believe you said. But right now, Jackson Allen sitting in pit lane. He actually just started his pit stop now. So we're going to have to see what happens here with the 4 truck.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there, but he is getting back in the truck. I think he's going to restart. He just wanted to take a penalty for himself. I'm not sure. It's really confusing, but back up to the front.
These guys he's still sitting on pit road right here. But as we can see real quick, and sorry, Andrew, right here for cutting you off, it looks like we're going to have 6 cars that are going to be in contention to maybe try to win this race right here. We're going to have on the front row, the 28 of Corey Walters, the 7 of Tyler Justice, lining up behind them, 32 of Ryden Broderick, along with the 90 car of Robbie Buckner. Then right behind them, you're going to have in row 3, the 61, and then the 13, I think, should be lining up on the outside of him, but I'm confused at that.
Looks like the 43, Craig Lerman, will go to the 6th position. Not actually 6th on, I guess, on the leaderboard, but 6th in terms of he's to the outside of 5th place. But Joseph Andujar will be behind Clayton Kurtz. Clayton Kurtz is now back in it.
And we are getting ready to go back green flag racing, fellas.
Yeah, Clayton is pretty much locked in at this point, and it'd be hard for him to not make it to Daytona. But pace car is in, green flag is out. Corey Walters on the loud pedal trying to open up a gap for Tyler Justice, but Tyler cannot move until the start-finish line. Mark gives him a lane for now, and he's going to fill it.
Yep, and as we see, I think he's going to get that huge run, but I think what he's going to do, though, is going to be kind of stuck down there right now because that 90 truck of the 90 truck of Robbie Buckner is going to either run, and just as I was getting ready to say that, he hangs out the 7, he's going to go with the 32 here.
Oh, and the 13 on the left rear of Clayton Kurtz, that's the no-no zone pretty much. On the backs of these trucks, you cannot push on the corner. Joseph Andujar almost, I mean, he got real lucky there that he didn't hook the 61. And, you know, he's coming back from a long vacation away from the league, if you will, so that's just going to be one of the things he has to get used to, I guess. But you have to be really careful around the corners of these trucks, Zach.
Yeah, exactly. Bumping in these corners, if you do want to bump in them, even though the league has a rule where you do not bump into the corners, as soon as you hit that banking, you're not allowed to bump. But if you feel like you have the need to, or you have no other choice, you want to hit as square as possible, and you don't want to be sliding around the track. What I mean by that is you don't want one car going high or fading a little high and you're going low. That's just asking to get hooked. Right now it looks like they're trying to create a second line. The 61 of Clayton Kurtz is trying to go with Robbie Buckner on the high side. We've got ourselves 2 lines here. 3 by 3, boys.
Tyler Justice will take the 61 and the 90 to the top side. He leaves the bottom. Caution's out. The race is over.
Now the question's going to be is who was in the lead.
That's Corey Walters, no doubt. That's Corey Walters, no doubt, I think. Robbie Buckner's still on the loud pedal.
It's going to be interesting to see how they score this right here, though.
He's still going.
That'll be a heck.
Robbie's still yelling, but I think that was the 28, no doubt.
Right now, I see the 90 car of Robbie Buckner scored as the leader. And it is confirmed, actually, right here. I just overheard race control right there. The 90 of Robbie Buckner has won this race.
Wow. So
and I'm going to tell you, that's a good, and that was a good drive for him though today. I mean, I remember saying earlier in the show. I mean, I know I was picking David Levine as one of the drivers to watch there, but at the end of it, I remember talking about how you don't count out that 90 truck as well.
I'm going to go back and try and find what that caution was for. Looks like it actually may have been David Levine. Yeah, something happened further back, guys. This is something to actually take a look at.
Let's see.
Go back to the 59. Something happens. They're 3 wide with Jake Little, Jason Burgess, and David Levine. Michael Redding just ahead of them. And I don't know what's about to happen, but the 59...
It looked like the 59 gave a little bit of a bump draft to the 23 truck coming out of turn 2. And as you can see, with the way that he hit him right there, he hooked him just a little bit into the fence. And then the 23 went to try to get it off of the wall right there and hit the 59 truck. And there I go with saying right there again, but I mean, you can add that to the complication again.
And now as the white flag is out, we're going to take a replay back at when the caution came out. I really thought it was going to be Corey Walters, but we'll go back up to the leaders. We're going to try and get as slow-mo as we can. We're going to go do a blimp camera. We'll see which one I think works best. Let's find something here. We're going to go as slow as we can here. And that's not the greatest view. This might be if it ever calms down, but it's not calming down. I'm trying something here. All right, this might work. This might work. This is going to be very, very slow here. I mean, we don't have a confirmation on when the caution actually came out, but you can see the 90 definitely nosed ahead. I think at this point, the caution's definitely out, and that's when Robbie Buckner never lifts. He sped away to that win. Under caution, but he drove away to it after the caution came out.
And I'm trying to find some sort of like lights to come on, maybe indicating that there was a caution. I'm not seeing it, but I mean, going into turn 3 and about halfway through turn 3, Robbie did have a nose over Corey, but Corey got a run halfway through, and then that's when the caution came out, and then Robbie loud pedals right past him. So I don't know. I'm trying to find that one spot where the caution comes out, but I'm just not able to find it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure when the caution came out, but you did see the 90 nose ahead, so, I mean, that leads us to believe that he definitely had it. That's definitely legitimate. That, you know, what that actually makes me think back to would be the 2017 Daytona 250 in the NMNTS Racing Series. I hate to just continuously bring up my time winning here last year. It sounds really narcissistic, but that finish, no matter who was involved, was just incredible. The fact that the caution came out at the perfect time when the car behind nosed just ahead of the car that they were passing. And that's what happened with me last year. I was passing Chris Baines, and I mean, it was a splitter, guys. It was just so little, and I think it was the same thing there. I think it was the same thing there
with Robbie. It's just so close when it comes down to that point that you can just sit there and only hope that you were able to nose ahead of that other driver when that caution comes out. We see a lot of drivers congratulating Robbie Buckner on his win tonight. That's going to get him on the outside of the second row for next week's race. So that's definitely going to be a good thing for him.
Yeah, so he goes from starting third here tonight. He qualified, I believe that makes it sixth, and he's going to move up a whole row to fourth now for the start of the race next Monday night, February 19th on Max Speed TV. Again, you need to catch that one on Max Speed TV on YouTube. I will not be available. I'll be in Daytona. I actually think that night I'll be in Orlando watching. But again, I won't be there, unfortunately, so you'll have to watch that one on Max Speed TV. And, you know, I'm confident in Joshua Medlock over there and whoever he can get up in the booth. Brendan Elsoff may be able to lend his voice. I think he's watching, or he was watching. Hopefully he does lend his voice. But, guys, I think it's time for some post-race interviews. I'm going to bring, actually, I can't bring Robbie Buckner up, but I can tell him to move up once he's here. Actually, yeah, Clayton Kurtz isn't back, so I'll just tell Robbie to come up when he's ready.
Alrighty.
Alright, so we'll see when he comes up here. And I know this is going to be a heck of an interview, guys.
Definitely.
This will be something. I think he's going to burn it down first, so we'll just watch as he burns it down. Zach, can you lead us through the top 10 results?
Yes, sir, I can. Well, as we were looking at it, Robbie Buckner will be our winner tonight in the second duel. Corey Walters will come up just about a half of a nose short. Clayton Kurtz will be third. He locks himself into the Daytona 250 here in NMNTS. Mark Brodzik will be fourth. Tyler Justice, our defending champ, will be fifth. Joseph Anduar, who had a great run, just unfortunate circumstances right there at the end, will come home sixth. Craig Lerman will be seventh. David A. Levine will be eighth. Chris Titus ninth. And rounding out our top 10 was the 4 of Jackson Allen.
And moving on to the next 10 drivers, Bradley Wilson will actually come home in 11th, Jason Burgess in 12th. Jake Little will bring that Napa Chevrolet to 13th. Unfortunately, he will not be in the Daytona 250. He did miss out on the race. Jared Beasley, though, in 14th. Derek Robinson, 15th. Ryan Daniels, 16th. Jeffrey Ford, another driver that I believe will miss out on next week's big race. Jared Rashawn will make it. He has a charter. Michael Redding has a charter. Brad Cross will not make it. And let's see. In 21st was Ron Miller. He'll move on. He had a charter, so he's safe. And, guys, I think we're just to wait for Robbie Buckner now.
Yeah, I think he's still trying to...
Oh! Robbie Buckner, you clearly have a coffee. A coffee, yes. You clearly have a coffee. No, you clearly have a copy. Probably a coffee, too. Sometime in the near past. But, Robbie, you finally got it. You won. How's it feel?
Oh, God, I've owed Bradley this for so freaking long it ain't even funny. I have watched Spence and Zach and Bradley win these races left and right, and I'm like, good God, this has got to happen eventually. I know it's not a point-paying race, but dang it, this does a lot for my confidence. I needed this. Holy crap. Thank you, Bradley Wilson. Thank you, BA Graphics. Thank you, Spence. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everybody. Anybody else want to thank you, you can have one, too.
Thank you for everyone. Possibly thank you for everyone in the chat watching too.
Robbie, I'll tell you what, man. At the top of the show, though, I mean, I remember Andrew was talking to me about my picks for this race. I pointed out a few of them right there, and at the end of it, I can honestly remember saying, like, don't ever count out the 90, because especially when when it gets down to that point when he's up in contention, he's gonna go after it. Robbie, well done, brother.
Thank you, brother. It means a lot coming from you. It really does.
Yeah, Robbie,
I thought I was in trouble, man. God almighty.
And we could see and there's a couple of times that we could see throughout that race when you guys are getting ready to make pit stops right around like within like 10 laps to go there. We could see the contact that was made between you and the Ford truck of Jackson Allen. Take us through what was going through your mind at that point.
Dude, I thought I was trying to watch my language. I thought I was going for a ride that one time in the middle of 3 and 4. I really did, dude. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it was net code or what it was, but man, it turned left, it hit apron. I was like, oh Lord, here we go. But we saved it, we pulled it. I thought that was the race for us there, and then coming to the pits. you know, I broke off on our normal strategy, how we do things, and maybe I just, you know, Jackson's new to all of this, so, you know, he got me there, and it spun me out, and I thought that was it for me. Terry Mason was spotting for me, and, you know, Terry told me damage wasn't too bad. Hang in there. And my PO'd in this, I had pretty much told them dumb crap was inbound, as I like to say. So.
Well, we can definitely see it from the tower right up here, Robbie. I tell you what, you did a heck of a job down there in that 90 truck tonight. Go celebrate with the rest of the crew, man. You did a great job.
Dude, dirty girl is in victory lane. How does that sound to y'all?
Craziest thing I've ever heard, though,
yeah,
Robbie.
it sounds pretty dang good, Robbie.
Hey, Zach.
Yes, sir?
I think I know the way now, brother.
Do you know the way, my brother?
Oh! Thank you, guys. Thank you guys so much. Andrew, I'll quit hijacking your stuff and go right now.
I was just going to say congratulations. I haven't gotten a chance yet. But just congrats on the win. We're watching your burnout here in slow-mo. I went through the grass, Dale Earnhardt style, and I think that's a pretty nice way to celebrate here at Daytona rather than just causing a ton of smoke and just killing rubber. It's nice to displace some grass and some grasshoppers or something. Just for real, I mean, a great job. Obviously, you know, even a big helper over at DCI and Jackson Allen. Obviously, neither of those things was intentional, where he got into you in the corner or got into you coming to the pits. I think you guys just braked at different points or different amounts, and that led to him getting into the back of you, into the pits. And, I mean, luckily, I mentioned it wasn't too bad. It was mostly just to the back end, get some optional done, and get 4 Mr. Feelgoods at a tank of gas, and I think you were fine. And obviously you were. You barely had a splitter ahead of Corey, though. Did you think you had him when the caution came out?
Dude, it was crazy. I was on the outside there, and Terry was spotting for me. Terry's like, they're wrecking behind you, they're wrecking behind you. I was like, crap, I didn't get it. And then, you know, the caution comes out, and it's like, this is 28. And I believe anybody that was in my team speak at that time has no hearing left at the moment. Because, yeah, I was screaming like a mug. But, yeah, I didn't think I got him, man. It's so funny. I was, you know, talking to Corey during the cool down there. You know, it was kind of a reverse of the clash. You know, Corey got me at the end of the clash, and I got him at the end of this, man. So I can't think of a better person to race against than Corey, man. Corey always races me clean. I really appreciate it from him. And go WFO. Go Dirty Girl. Bradley Wilson, you're the man, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a great run from you and your 90 team. And I can't move you back down, but whenever you're ready, you can move back down. I'm not sure if Clayton is ever going to come back, but if you could communicate with him, let him know we're waiting on him to come back to interview him, that'd be great. But again, driver, just what a drive, putting it in victory lane here in duel number 2. And this only continues the streak of WFO being really, really strong in this winter/spring weekend at Daytona. You won last year, actually, in the Grand National Series on Tuesday nights at Daytona. And now you're going to back that up with the duel win here tonight. Do you think you can win the 250?
We're going to give it a heck of a whirl, man. I can promise you that. They're going to know I'm there. I can promise you we're starting up front. We're going to keep it up front the entire race. You know, either, my opinion, you only got 2 strategies. Either run at the very front or run like 12 seconds behind everybody. That's the only way you stay out of it. So I'm going to run up front the entire night since I'm up there. So let's have some fun next week. Andrew, awesome job with the broadcast as always. Spence, Zach, I'm glad you guys are broadcasting on this as well. I'm going to go to bed now.
And I'm sorry for every headphone user everywhere, myself included. Wow, that was loud, but...
I'll say, I'm sure I'm going to not be able to hear for the next few days, but Robbie, great job, though.
Yeah, it's bad enough going to Daytona. I'm going to lose my hearing there, but dang, I'm getting an early start. Conditioning.
Y'all have a good one, man.
Later,
I'm done hijacking your broadcast.
It's all right.
Clayton's back, by the way. Here, hold on one second. Hold on one second. I'm going to do you a favor. I want to do this. Clayton Kurtz.
Yes, sir.
What is going on, brother? I want to talk to you because you're the man.
Yeah.
I love you, brother. Do it.
Yeah, so Clayton Kurtz, do you have a copy?
I do.
Well, you went out there, you drove that 61 truck to 3rd place. You had some troubles early on, lost the draft for a bit, but you hung with it. You you barely were on the lead lap still when that caution came out, when Jackson unfortunately got into Robbie coming into the pits. Just what was going through your mind when that caution finally came out and gave you that second chance?
Well, I was actually more worried about making sure we made the race for the 25. So I mean, I had my spotter let me know who was all the go or go homers and making sure we were ahead of them, and that caution that bunched us all up there. I was told that the guy in the next car was 5 laps down and there was 4 to go, so we put it to the wood and tried to get Robbie up there, and we did.
Yeah, I mean, you drove Robbie Buckner basically, you drove his car for him pretty much into the lead, and just, I mean, one heck of a run from you guys. Can we expect more of the same next Monday night?
Well, I don't know. We're not gonna be running for points in this series, so I don't want to mess everyone's chance at winning it. I'm just here filling in.
Yeah, actually, tell us a little bit about the circumstances with you in that number 61. That's a new number that we haven't seen you in before, so what's going on there?
Yeah, we're just filling in for Ryan and you at your guys' race team. Just awesome to be able to come out here. I wouldn't have been doing this tonight, and we probably wouldn't have got Robbie that win.
Yeah, definitely. That 61 looked pretty good out there. And I mean, despite losing the draft at one point, I don't know what happened there. I guess just trying to hang on. You, I think, had the greatest drive out of anyone through that initial caution. Do you think it was all over on lap 4?
I did. We got through coming out of 4, but then when we got flat, back in the flat part of the track, people were spinning around, and I was just holding on tight, waiting for someone to pop out of the smoke and us T-boning them.
Yeah, well, you certainly did a good job getting through the wreck. Zach Spence, you guys got anything for him?
Well, Clayton, you ran one heck of a race tonight, brother. We were concerned seeing you there when you dropped off a little bit after the packs kind of went 3x3, 2 groups apiece. You kind of dropped off a little bit and fell all the way back. Was that part of strategy, or did you just straight up lose the draft?
Well, at first it was just straight up losing the draft, and then I started realizing that we could possibly make it on fuel, just saving a little bit, and then that kind of went out the window, and I kept looking at my relative, and Robbie and them kept getting closer and closer and closer, and then I saw the time increase in between us, and I realized then that they were pitting, and I no longer got across start finish line, and the caution came out, and that really, really helped us.
Yeah, because we were talking about it a little bit. I'm sorry to step on you there, Andrew. We were talking about it a little bit, and we just kind of wanted to know, because you were in that transfer spot pretty much from lap 25 on, but that's when you started to really lose the draft. So we just wanted to know if it was a strategy piece or losing the draft. But hey, it paid dividends for you. You come home third, and you put yourself in the 250, bud.
Yes, sir.
Well, Clayton, once more before we let you go, just congrats on getting the 3rd place. Is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to tonight?
Definitely. First, we got to thank you actually for letting me run this truck. And obviously, if I wasn't here, it probably would be a different winner right now. And also Discount Shop Tales and everything they do for us, helping us run 2018.
Sounds good, man. Well, we'll let you go. Great run from that number 61. We'll be looking forward to Monday night. I won't be here, but Max Speed TV will be able to cover that race. It'll be fun for me to watch from my hotel in nice, warm Orlando.
Alrighty. Thank you guys so much for broadcasting this stuff, too.
No problem, man. It's our honor. That was 3rd place finishing Clayton Kurtz. We're going to bring up Corey Walters, and I'll let Zach start that interview off.
Alrighty. Corey, this is Zach up here in the PSI TV booth. You got a copy, bud?
I got you, buddy.
Well, you were pretty much the dictator of the race all night. You were pretty much up front, running really well, leading laps. Before we get to the end there, what was your strategy coming into the race? Even though it was a non-points race, I believe you already had your number locked into the 250. What was your strategy coming in?
It's basically just practice, for next week. See how well we could work together as a team, getting in and out of the pits. far as fuel strategy and all that, and it worked out pretty good. We had a good race overall, and I'm glad Robbie won. I mean, if I was to lose to anybody, it'd be Robbie, so it was a good deal.
Yeah, talking about pit strategy there, we saw you, Tyler, and Mark get lined up, and you guys ran together for about 2-3 laps, and you guys came flying into the pit stops pretty much. You guys did that pretty well, actually. Is that something that you guys wanted to primarily focus on? Is that something that you guys had planned even before the race, or was it something you guys made up on the go during the race?
Yeah, we just made it up on the fly. Pretty much. I mean, I was planning on going in like lap 40, like the first race, but we went in 32, and that was all right. It worked out.
All right, well, bringing it to the end of the race here, you, I believe you had Mark behind you, and on the high side you had Robbie to the outside and Clayton to the outside of Mark. Do you think there's anything you could have done differently going down the backstretch to try to prevent Robbie from just stealing that position just at the edge away from you?
Pretty sure the only thing I could have done is give him the door, you know? So, and I'm not going to do that to Robbie or anybody else unless they do it to me first. And Robbie and I always race clean together, so I'm glad he got it. I mean, it was only by a couple inches, but hey, that's all it takes.
Yeah, exactly, bud. And you said it, that's all it takes, especially here at Daytona. Well, you ran one heck of a race, bud. You kept your number clean. You kept your number out front all night. That number 28 Javelin machine out there. Before we let you go and start thanking everybody that you need to thank, Andrew Spence, you got any questions for him?
No, just good job. You won the BA Graphics Cup shootout just under a week ago, and now you're second place here in the duel. And actually, it's the same top two, just reversed. So that's interesting. But I mean, either way, good job, Corey. We're looking forward to the rest of the season.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yep. Same here as well there, Corey. This is Spence up in the TV booth here. We just saw you, though, lastly here, just real quick. Definitely saw you have a good speed week so far here right there going into next week, though. What do you think your chances are, real quick, to win the 250? Do you think you guys got a shot at it?
Buddy, you know just as well as I do, it's a 200-mile game of chess, you know. You just got to be in the right place at the right time and keep your shit clean all day. Sorry for cussing.
No problem, Corey. Good luck in the rest of Speed Weeks, man. We look forward to seeing you on the racetrack again. Can't wait to race against you in that 250 next week. And big congrats on the second place run here tonight. Good job.
Appreciate it, Spence.
All right, and again, that has been Corey Walters. He went up there, put that number 28 in second place tonight. Congrats to him on getting a second. And he was already locked in to begin with, but I do want to go over the official call over who will move on and who will not through both duels. So duel number 1 looks like it will be Jared Mogard, Aiden Young, and Joe Burchett, the 3, 9, and 83 who do move on. That means that Justin Richter, Trevor Harmon, John Kennedy, Ronald White, and Mike Bruno will be cut from the field. However, in duel number 2, I was wrong, actually. Ron Miller, unfortunately, is not locked in. So, that means with Ron Miller being involved in that early wreck, he is out of Daytona. The only driver moving on that was not already locked in will be Clayton Kurtz in the number 61 Hambrick Auto Toyota, which means Brad Cross in the number 30, Ron Miller in the 16, Jeffrey Ford in the 95, Jake Little in the 41, and Chris Titus in the 25 will be cut from duel number 2.
And real quick, lastly here as well, Andrew, and I think, and you've hit this on the head earlier in the night, and I think you can, and I think we can all say it perfectly here. Big notable of those cars that you just listed that are not making the race next week, I think the big notable has got to be that 19 truck sim spec truck of Mike Bruno.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of bizarre to see him not in the show for next week, but you know, there was an opportunity for each driver to buy a charter to have guaranteed entry. Unfortunately, he was on the waiting list and was not awarded a charter because there were already 25 spoken for. So unfortunately, he will not be in the field at Daytona for the NMNTS Sim Spec Championship Series Daytona 250 next Monday night. But Zach, do you have any closing thoughts?
Tonight was a great overall race. Really fun, exciting to watch. glad you got me up here to broadcast with you, buddy. Thank you for letting me get up here with you. Looking forward to the 250 now, buddy.
Sounds good, and obviously you both will be in that race, so best of luck to you guys, and best of luck tomorrow night in BA Graphics Cup Series qualifying. Unfortunately, again, I won't be able to cover that. I will actually already be on my way to Daytona. So, without further ado, let's go through the results, guys. No, wait, we already did. Sorry, I'm totally out of focus now because we already did that. So we don't have to go through the results now. So that has been it from PSI TV. Got to give a thank you to, of course, Spec, PC Towers, TN Designs, Wall Crusher Designs, iWRAPS, BA Graphics, TJ Designs, and JB Paints. That's a lot. As well as Oliver Mobile Fleet Repair, the iRacing Weekend Warriors Group, the NMNTS Racing Series, obviously, the All-Star Sim Racing Group. I'm trying to think. The Dirt Racing Challenge Series. Race Agent, Glenn Richards Designs, GoPro Motorplex, David Levine Racing, Monkey Motorsports. The list just goes on and on. If you're involved, you know who you are. Thank you so much for allowing us to be able to do this. This is so much fun for us, especially me getting to do it every day pretty much, it seems like. And, you know, Zach and Spence get their fair share in from time to time. So, again, thank you to everyone who makes this happen. This has been PSI TV from Daytona International Speedway, and we'll see you next time here on PSI TV. We'll be dark for a little bit while I am in Daytona, but we'll be back very, very shortly. Again, this has been PSI TV. Make sure to tune in next time.